Back again for sort of a part two. Rebooted the computer and did a couple of checks to see if everything was like still plugged in. you know. Anyway, I greet you all with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And with that said, hey, Miss Pearl, I love you, Pearly. I do. Um, I'm collecting mulberries, by the way, Pearl. And every time I go out there towards the mulberries, I think about you. Not, I think about other people too, but I'm like, Miss Pearl now, I bet you she's got a recipe somewhere. I was thinking, I've never heard of mulberry pie, but I've heard of blackberry pie, blackberry cobbler, and peach cobbler, so why not mulberry? But anyway, um, did this thing freeze up again? Anyway, come on here and mulberry tarts. Ooh, now, if, I'm lousy at making dough. I can make money better than I can make dough, but um, ooh, mulberry tarts. That does sound good. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of. I've never, I've only tasted mulberries a couple of times in my entire lifetime, and the fact that I got all these mulberries out there on this tree this year. My friends were here today, and they were like, "Oh my God, look at how we were just, picking them and eating them and yum yum yum." And so my one friend, she goes, "I don't know if I've ever had a mulberry," and was like, certainly they look like blackberries, and um, but anyway, so I'm collecting them, and now, but I want to, I powdered sugar on top, yum yum. I'm gonna have to get, I have to get some flour and try a little bit of bacon because I can't make mulberry tarts without some kind of bacon, rolling out some dough. I think. Where I can buy well, actually, I haven't seen a pie crust in a store in a while, and they used to be there all the time. So I could buy a couple of pie crust and make quiche and stuff because I don't do dough well. I just don't. Hey, elderberry. Yeah, YouTube any recipe. I know. I would just There were years ago when people would just used to share a recipe. They go, "Listen, I got this killer recipe. Try this, do that anyway." But I get it, Miss Delaney. So anyway, I in looking around and cleaning up, and every time my friends come, which is about every other week or so, to check on me, and we fraternize and have a little bit of, we they went on a walkabout a little bit with me today, and I showed them some of the plants and trees and stuff, and how amazing, after all these years, that there are certain trees here on the property that I just don't know how they got started. Don't know where the seeds come from. Don't Just do not know how they got started. I've planted some trees and they just won't go. But anyway, in ringing around and cleaning around, I found my little USB adapters. Hey, Doug, I found my little USB adapters. So, with any luck, I'm going to upload some of the video that and at least some of the pictures that I took with Duggar when we were down on the river. So, I knew I had these little suckers somewhere. So, I was like, all right, now, because it's been so long since I have worried about uploading pictures or anything like that, because when YouTube changed the format and I couldn't share my screen the way I used to could and all this other stuff. Anyway, So I just kind of gave up, and I even kind of sort of gave up on taking some pictures, which is a shame because I used to take pictures all the time. So I've got scads and scads of these little things with lots of pictures and stuff that I put on it. But in the amazing things about, I don't know, could y'all hear me in that last video at all? Um, I know the chat it froze up, and it seemed like everything was froze up, but I don't know. But in the last couple of days, there's just been some really oddly strange, but not like, oh my God. I mean, I'm still, as much as I keep talking about this sassafras tree, I keep stopping and thinking, but how did it get here? Hey, Alex, how are you? So I know at least the chat's working. So and in cleaning up and stuff, there was this little pile of stuff over in the corner, and I was going to toss it away, and there was some dust and Duggar hair on it and everything, and I went to go throw it away, and something said, "No, pull that back." And so this is another one of them. Look at that perfect little arrowhead, and I mean it's only the size of my thumb. It's not very big. It's a really tiny but intricate little device. So good. Thank you, Alex. And blessings out to y'all. So, but anyway, in this part two, there's been these little things that I have found, and I'm not sure where I got this. Hey, Julie, I'm not sure. It's a party now. It's always a party, Elderberry. It's 2:09. We got 10 minutes, 11 minutes. But anyway, so here's this wonderful little arrowhead. And I mean, like, wow. So it's almost like, would I actually put that on the end of a stick and shoot it at something? But anyway, um, yes, Native American. Yes, absolutely. And I'm trying to, as I'm holding it, I'm like, there are times when I can hold an item and tell you about it. And I used to do this way back in the day to pick up chicks and get free beers and stuff. I could hold on to an object or something, and tell something about the person by holding the object. Or I would do a palm reading without looking at their hand, but I could tell them about certain things about themselves. I've gotten slapped quite a few times. Like, oh, one time I said, "You're in here, and your husband or your boyfriend doesn't know." And about that time, whoosh, blap. How did you know that? Are you here? But anyway, yeah, pickup chicks. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But the ability to hold on to certain things and get images from them. So I'm holding on to this, and I'm going. I know this is Native American. It's I don't collect things from other. Well, wait. I do have rocks from and certain things from other countries because I had a friend of mine, him and his dad. His dad was a geologist, but they were also into going to gem store, rock and mineral shows, and I mean, I've got all these great big huge crystals and stuff that I've gotten over the years, and some of them are from South America, and some of them are from Africa, and I think I might even have something that was even from Australia. But anyway, and when I had extra money, they were all the time, having issues, so I would buy things from them. But this, I'm not. I'm trying to figure out where I got this arrowhead from, but I've got a few of them that I have found here on the property. Like I've told this little story before, but it's part of the story of the hill. In that they're my next door neighbor, and I mean like 20 feet from the property line. He was leveling out some ground to put his trailer in for his mother. And when he did, he scraped the top layer off, just a couple of inches of dirt, right? And he found over 150 different arrow points, and some of these things were spear points this long that were chipped out chipped out of the native, Flint from around here. Um, but tribes around here, Alex, was the Lower Cherokee, the Muskogee Creek Indians. Because near Florida, there were Seminole Indians. There, because I'm really close to the Thigpen Trail, there were um, a Cherokee Indians who came literally, down the trail down to the ocean to fish during the winter times, and anyway, and summer times too. But the Lower Muskogee Creek uh, um, are the ones that around here, they sort of, but also there is a tribe. Literally, there is a place over near towards Jacksonville, still in Georgia. In that little hump in Georgia along the Florida line is a Cherokee, Lower Cherokee village there, and those people are some wonderful people there. But anyway, and they usually have a powwow about this time every year, and I really wanted to go, but things haven't quite been conducive for that. And now that I have Duggar, I know people take their dogs, but I got to be careful with a four-legged when you're doing that sort of thing. But anyway, and my ancestry personally is that my great great grandmother was full blood Cherokee. My great grandmother was half Cherokee, and my grandmother was half Cherokee. On the Lee side of the family, and that there's a lot of it's really strong. It's like 85% that we were somehow related to Robert E. Lee through that family. But anyway, yeah, I've been to. I used to go to the powwows, and then I started participating with powwows, which that was just totally different. So I've been going to powwows ever since I came to Georgia, and they used to have some really nice big ones around here. And then I got in with a friend of mine who was literally, he was a producer and organized powwows himself, Jerry Laney. And but everything went south about 2005, 6, 7, and a lot of the powwows that used to be aren't anymore. In Tullahoma, we were in Tennessee. We were named one of the biggest and fanciest and well-known powwows at that time for like 3 or 4 years in a row. It was a really big deal there in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And but anyway, so I have the privilege of being there. I have the privilege of just doing storytelling and participating and old skills and things like that. My relations are Mississippi Choctaw and Magdalene mix. Wow, that's interesting. Blackfoot Native, yeah. Anyway, there's a place on the internet called powwows.com, and you can search and a couple of online, and they will give you if the powwows list, they will usually list with powwows.com, just as a whatever. But anyway, so there's one coming up in the fall here, down here in South Georgia. There's a small, they've applied to the state of Georgia to be a sure enough, um, uh, be considered tribal land. And they usually have a powwow in the fall or around Halloween kind of time area. But anyway, yeah, Alex, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that, and I have spoke about this before, but in that we are all native peoples, and there are so many people who just don't want to recognize it, don't want to talk about it, but they got Native American blood has been spread throughout this country a lot. And whether it was a grandmother, great grandmother, or a half bleed from, from way back when. But, back in the days of the Trail of Tears and so forth, there were women who who said, look, men who would say, look, I'll take you in if you'll, become my, mug wife. And, and some of them said no, but anyway, and I know this because of a previous karma inside of me that I took on a squaw, okay, and which is a nasty. Don't ever use the word squaw. Don't ever, no, bad, nasty, bad word. It's like that's like a bitch or whore or no. Do not ever, relate by using the term squaw around a Native American, especially if you're talking about them. But anyway, so in my karma, I took in because I was however needed a wife or whatever, and I was a drunken alcoholic and a mean son of a bitch in a previous life. I mean, I'm here this time around to fix what happened in the last time because I think I beat her and was not nice, and um, but anyway, back in the day, those types of people existed, but because they wanted something to poke and plug and somebody to cook the meals and keep their little shanty clean, and under the circumstances, there were women who were Native American who were taken because of that, or their husbands were killed during the Indian Wars and that kind of thing back in the day. So there are people who have Native American blood in them, and they would no more want to agree with you and the Man in the Moon. But so that's why I say we're all Native Americans to this place, and to the point where I'm like great, great, great grandmother. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 generations down the line. Well, I don't know if the Null family had any Native American in them or not, but um, the chance of there being, because of being in Ohio and the Kentucky area and up there, and because of the history of the natives there and the peoples that they married folks, and back in the day, some of them didn't care whether or not it was um, whether or not she was quote Indian, because over here in the eastern section, the Native Americans mostly were. I hate to use this word, but it will explain it in that they were domesticated. The Cherokee lived in houses, and and had they had a language, they had a constitution, they had these things before a white man got here. So they were a little bit more advanced as far as that is concerned than the Plains Indians. But if you think about the Plains Indians, they didn't have stuff to build with, where in the Carolinas and and all the eastern coast and all, there are trees people cut down and made buildings and things and stuff, and they cleared land so that they could plant corn and so forth. But one thing a lot of people don't really understand and get is that, as I've talked about on my own property, is that every morning I get up and we go up for a walk on the hill. Native peoples foraged. They got up and on their way to the creek or to get water or whatever, they foraged for plants and herbs and stuff along the way, and they never picked the last one. They always took a portion of it. They asked for permission, When they picked a leaf off a tree, they sent blessings to Mother Nature and said thank you, and asked the tree, "May I have one of your leaves? I'm collecting for medicine." And people nowadays would just think that's stupid. But the many people that I've known over the years, my one friend Dale Betcher up in North Georgia, up around the Georgia Guidestones, somebody said they were removed, but I don't know about that. But anyway, um, but he lived up there in that area, and every morning he would, and in the late in the afternoons too, when it wasn't so hot out, he would go out and go foraging. And in the morning time there'd be this trip because there were berries or things or something along, and in the evening times it was more down near the river or something. But anyway, he had these routes that he would take to forage every day. So, and some days he would go a little more this way and sometimes that, but he was always observing what nature was providing. And he made some salve that I had sunburn, and he made a batch of salve every year. And this salve, I gave some to my doctor friend, and she said she said, "I can't prescribe this for my patients." She said, "I've used it on my cows and horses." And she goes, "Whatever's in this stuff is amazing." And it was all things that he collected and used beeswax and lard and cooked them down. And, and in cleaning out my refrigerator, I found one of these tins of some of this stuff that he had made that I'd got from him. Oh my God, it's been at least 12, 13, 14 years now. So, and the salve is still good. It's been in the refrigerator the whole time, but I was like, it was stuck in behind something. And God knows, oh, shame on me. It's been that long since I've cleaned my refrigerator out that much, right? But, or maybe I've seen it and said, I'm going to leave it back here. It's safe back here. And then I put something else like pickles in front of it and couldn't see it. But to the point, though, I've been finding these little gems around my house and in the woods. And, so it's like the universe. I want to say, it's almost like Christmas time in a way for me because I got sassafras growing on my own. How did it get? Don't care how it got here. I'm just saying thank you to the universe. How them blueberry, but don't care how the blueberry. Thank you. How did I get all the honey? Don't care. Thank you. I mean, and there are other things like finding this little thing here and other little tidbits that have been popping up, just sort of. And it's not like I'm not paying attention all the time. It's just like tap on the shoulder. You've been looking for this, right? Yeah, it's over here. Like tonight, looking for the little memory stick things. Uh, there. It's over here, and I wasn't even thinking about it. So Spirit was like, "Hey, haven't you been looking for this?" Yeah, it's over here. Holy crap! And sure enough, it was there. So anyway, so the blessings from the universe aren't necessarily money or objects or anything like that, but it's just been here these last couple of days. It's been really interesting. Um, and some other folks have said, it's been this spring has been really interesting. There were some folks a week or two ago like, well, hot weather's here and summer set in. I said, no, we're gonna have another one. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. No, it's it was like 44 last night. It's supposed to be 46 tonight. It was 50 something earlier on. And, this is pushing into May. I'm not complaining. But I remember back in the mid 80s where it snowed on the 1st of May in the North Georgia mountains because we planned on this camping trip, figured May 1st there, it'd be cool but not hot, and it snowed. It was blizzarded. It got down into the 20s, froze our canteens. So this idea, oh no, but I didn't realize that, there were going to be places that had snow this spring, but this late on. But for people who say, no, it don't happen, listen, I'm in my lifetime, oh, yes, it has. Oh, well, it's so weird and odd. That's true. but for those folks who are younger going, oh, the earth is, doing all this stuff. It's all climate change. It's all the look before we had, airplanes or whatever, spewing stuff out of the back of them. We had climate change. There's been climate change on this planet since the day it was born, So yes, there are people tampering with it. Yes, I agree with that. But to the point, though, that I remember in my lifetime, the weather events, whether I don't think it was us that was messing with it. It might have been some aliens or some folk, but and there are still some alien folk that are putting some of them chemtrails up there. But other information that has come to me that I rarely, if ever, discuss here because it's like in the way woo for me and possibly for y'all. And I have no way to corroborate it, But I was talking on part one about the things about, having been on Dante's channel and having had, contact with different people. And people contacted me going, hey, what's up with Dante? Have you heard anything from him? And that kind of thing. And hey, guys, blessings back to you, Julianne Project. I think I'm Climate. Yeah. Um, but there are things that I feel inside, like I kind of sort of understand that there's some crap going on. I understand there's some really serious, and I understand, and then because I've asked my angels in that if there's any way that you can like prove to me that that's really going on. And then, I out of the blue one day I was watching some videos of all these different alien ships and so forth, and I was like, one of these days, I'd really like to see what a Callisto ship looks like. And lo and behold, within the same day, side by side, was a video about the sure enough war and crap that's going on in the Ukraine and with Dante. And it confirms what I'm understanding in that the reason the Russians are going over to the Ukraine ain't because they're the damn Vlasher out there. They're literally, shooting each other with machine guns and it's a serious issue. So it's like what I have been feeling for a while here was confirmed with a video. And I'm like, that was more than I expected. And then the other thing about then there was this, 1 minute video of this beautiful, Christus ship. And I was like, was not expecting that one. So in the universe of things of finding and seeing and keeping your eyes open to stuff, if I hadn't been doing my little walk arounds and stuff and being observant, I wouldn't have found these new trees and shrubs and vines and that's Mother Nature has somehow transplanted here just for me. Wow, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm literally blown away by this stuff. Oh, I missed 220. Dang, was yakking my mouth off. But anyway, so it's 220 somewhere or 420 somewhere. Who cares? Let's smoke if you got them. I do not consider myself special in any way other than I have been beat in the head quite a few times. Serious head concussions, but in the understanding of the shaman and training in that, as I have talked about this, I seem to, in the last, since age of 65, we'll say, which has been the last 3 years particularly, it seems like I'm in this, and I mentioned this the other day, and I don't mean the Holy Spirit kind, but it's sort of like I've been in a phase of grace in my own way, in that I can hear the universe talking over here, but I'm still working in here, over here on this. And then the other night when I pulled that card, it was the Eagle card, number one. And it was like, oh, holy crap. And so it was a message to me, but so many of you felt the energy and the message from the Eagle card. And all I can say is that I'm humbled and blessed that I was able to do that the other night. I know the video ended up 3.5 hours or whatever. Um, and good thing I made this into part two. Um, yeah, angel beings. Yeah, I think Rufus is an intergalactic being from the Dog Star. Could very well be. But anyway, um, these last couple of days, getting all this information and seeing these new trees and stuff, and in my heart, I just kind of wished that I just wished that the sassafras was down the road again. I just wished that certain things would grow normally like they used to grow around here. So I wasn't wishing that I personally would get this. I just wished it would come back to the neighborhood, right? But to have these things growing on my property without me planting them and all this other kind of stuff, I just scratch my head and say thank you to the universe, because it really is amazing the diversity of things that are growing now here from up the hill from me. I'm blown away, y'all. I am absolutely blown freaking away. The stuff that I have been finding growing here, that yeah, it can grow here, but who planted it? Who brought it? I'm just saying, thank you. So it proves to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when you stay in communication with your spirit guide, with your guardian angel, and I think I might have one of each, because it's almost like I hear two of them going, "Yeah, man, but so, but when you establish that connection with your spirit guide, with your guardian angel, not somebody else's. Don't go out there poking around. You hear me talking about this. Stick with yours. Ask yours about other people, but for God's sakes, don't go channel Adolf Hitler like some people have done. Just saying. Ask the universe about it, and they'll give you messages. Now, the other thing too is for me, I have just wished that certain things were like the old days. I wish there were quail running through the the fields and stuff around here. So last night me and Doug are down in the woods, and I'm walking around and doing some stuff, right, and I hear off in the distance in my backyard, turkey. I mean, gobble 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 turkey. And I stopped and was like, wait a minute. So it was time for Duggar and I to go on our little evening, walkabout. So we went down towards the property line, and so I could get a good long vision, because these turkeys were like gobbling big time. But it was sunset, and that's when they go to roost. And so I was like, well, we'll go walk down the little trail through here, and I'll see if I can hear them. And I was hoping that Duggar wouldn't hear them himself. I don't think he knows what they are, which is a good thing. In that I walked way down the property line, and he was over in the woods, and I could still hear him gobbling. And I'm like, holy mackerel, there was a bunch of them. I never did see them because they were already roosted. But I mean, it sounded like and I've seen signs of these turkeys where there must be 10, 15 of them in this cluster. Okay. So, and so this afternoon, gobble, 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 turkeys. Now I know there's turkeys around here, but so in my general question to the universe that I know there are deer here. I know about the beavers, and I know about the otter. I know about the hawks and the this and the barred owls and the woodpeckers, and wild turkey around here. But to have them like living in my backyard on my place and roosting here is like holy crap. So now I really want to, because I was bitching about this the other day about opening up the trails. They're down in an area where some of my trails have been messed up from the down trees. So I really want to go down there now, and find out, because I'm sure I will find turkey feathers, which is the other thing too. And I'd like to see, it's one of those things that if you know that if they're wild turkey, and you know what their eating habits and they will all follow a pattern. They just like quail did, or do, if there's still any wild quail. But they'll, at certain times of day, you'll always see them in a certain area. If deer will follow certain trails, now maybe not within a day, but they will follow certain trails and be on one side of the river in the morning time and the other side of the river at night. Now, if it's flooded, of course, that changes. But and sometimes they're headed north and sometimes they're headed south, as far as their walking and their browsing. So, but when you see these patterns in nature and how animals act, react, and so forth. So, anyway, I'm really curious about, the turkey, because, oh my God, it sounded like they were having a convention down there. And my point to that is that I do have a crossbow. I do have, an air gun. I don't have any firearms. Um, Although I would love to have a 410 shotgun. But anyway, um, although I haven't needed it all these years, so what good would it have really done me? But anyway, uh, in that if I have to, I have wild turkey that I could trap or shoot, cook, and have some dinner. So it's nice to know. But in that though, I don't hunt like that. But it's nice to know they're in my backyard. So in wanting to be self-sustainable here on my own property, with as much as possible, having, all these blueberries show up and having these different, um, um, there's one particular plant, it's called a plantain. And it's a green, it has these little curly stalks on it. And, maybe it gets about this tall, but it's got several medicinal values. There's a couple other ones that their leaves are really dark green, and you flip them up underneath and it's sort of orangish. And I can't remember the name of them, but I was like, they're coming up in certain places on the property. And I was like, I don't remember ever seeing these here, because I have noticed them in my book. I've searched for these in the past, and now I'm noticing, wow, there are two or three of them right over here. Holy crap! I don't want to mow this now over here. I'm going to have to leave this alone, um, or maybe at least transplant them. Although that hardly ever works. So there are some trees that need to get trimmed back really, so that the things that have come up will have the proper sunlight. It's just wow. And I had wished these things for the last 30 some years. Wow, I wished I had this. But not like, if I ever come across them, I'll get some, and to find that they're here is just like, wow, you know. And then the other messages and things that I've asked for, you know, and in that, if, and the question has been simple. I've had these dreams, I've had these feelings, and I would just like some clarification. That's all. No specifics, no, just if and I haven't talked about a lot of this stuff with y'all, but in my own head, is any of this like is good, bad, yes, no, and then have all these things pop into place. And here just recently, don't know what it means. We've had some really interesting energies go by. A lot of people are feeling a different change in the weather, but the weather meaning not just temperature wise, but energy wise. And folks kind of sort of, well, they're not really into what we're into, you know? And but they're talking about, wow, there's a different feeling this spring, and there's a different feeling going around. Where there are a lot of folks though that are still paranoid, and they're everybody's going to die and got to wear a mask, you know. But there's this other group, I think, the group that gave up worrying about the masks and worrying about this and worrying about the election and worrying about, you know, we're all still paying attention, but we quit giving a shit about it. I mean, oh, somebody said, well, what about the mask? And do you? Okay. Well, how do you feel about it, Dave? I ain't wearing one unless they make me. Well, you gonna? No, there nobody's giving me a shot. But now, you know, sorry. You know, there's my opinion. There it is. So, but for me to worry about every other person, how they should react or what they need to go through, I was adding that drama to my life. And so I was talking with Doug earlier, and it was good to chat with you, Doug. And truly, my phone was beeping and it was going off. And also, I had considered doing this video before you called me. But anyway, um, no, I forgot what I was yakking about. But anyway, having to do with just being paying attention to stuff. But you know, we when we accept and receive from the universe, we can accept the bad things. Well, they've already happened. Well, there was a train wreck, or there was a this, or somebody. Okay, but do you know? And it used to bother me for days on end, and it would, you know, oh, look what's going on in the universe, and look what they're doing over here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's that got? Hawkeye, what has that got to do with you? Nothing. But we need to keep an eye on these trends. Absolutely. So, being the observer, and there are more people, and I've been talking about this for as long as I've been on this channel, to be the cautious observer, the conscientious observer, the compassionate observer. And as Eagle's telling us, we don't need to look right down at our feet. We need to look at the horizon and not just our present situation. But anyway, so what does all that mean to us? There are people who are waking up and they're finding their own courage. They're finding their own foothold. They're finding their own way of saying, you know, I've listened to you jerk offs long enough, and I'm not even going to talk about you anymore. I see you over there doing your crazy shit, and I see these people over here doing their crazy shit. And I haven't, you know, all my getting emotionally involved in these things over the last many years in and thinking, you know, we're going to send all this and it's going to change the world and it's all going to be, and yeah, it turned out to be like this. So, but I think a lot of people had to go through this to where we're all keeping an eye on stuff, but we're not becoming emotionally attached to it anymore. I think with some folks, it's like, you know, whether I'm going to look at anything on the computer or not, I close the damn lid. If they're spying on me, good for them. But what am I doing, right? I'm not hatching a plan to take over the planet or nothing, or, you know, my inside information or blah, blah, blah. My inside information is to tell y'all there's a hell of a lot more going on. than what people are talking about and so forth. But there's evidence, look around. So, but anyway, and as far as the blessings from the universe, whether or not it's true or false, or whether or not I'm spouting a bunch of bullshit, I'm doing this particular video, part two, in that the universe has proven to me that these blessings can come out of nowhere without me manifesting them or without me trying to create them or begging from them in the universe. I've just put it out there that it sure would be nice to have these things back to natural. And lo and behold, they're here. I will continue to be blown, my mind being blown about that. I know the sassafras thing. But, they did it just did it walk over here and plant itself? And I mean, the interesting thing is I walk up there at least once a day and looking left and right at all different plants. And today it was like, hello, I'm here. Like, I should have noticed you before. And I'm looking at the spot going, how many times have I stopped right there? There's a log that's down like this, and there's blackberries right there, and there's a thingy. Why haven't I seen this tree here before? I have stood right here on the driveway and looked in this area. But today I notice it. What? Just saying. So the blessings, that sometimes you walk by something a dozen times or 100 times, and then all of a sudden one day Spirit taps you on the shoulder and goes, psst, over there. And you go, much to my amazement, there are these, whatever it might be. Like today, finding this precious little arrowhead, I remember it vaguely, but I was fixing to chunk it in the garbage because it had fallen on the corner of the down there, and I'm vacuuming up dog fur and my fur, and and then I was like, but the interesting thing is, Spirit said, hang on, you need to not throw that away and look at it. And I went, oh, glad I didn't throw that in the garbage. Wow. So it's just, it is the little things sometimes. It's the listening, and I'm always listening to my spirit guide, don't get me wrong. But otherwise I would have chunked that thing in the garbage, right? So, but because springtime and I'm always walking around at some point, but I used to forage every morning, like make some coffee and go for a walk, just go around the hill and spend 10 or 15 minutes, go down a trail and just walk it a little ways and see what's growing and well, it got to be that nothing was new. And then last year I went through the period of helping someone out and things and stuff. And it doing the walking trails thing just got wiped out of my existence. And this spring, starting with Duggar, and making trails and doing clearings and the campsite down in the woods. And, so I'm making the effort, but by doing so, Mother Nature is showing me, look what we did while you were away, look over here, look at this tree, look at this new cherry tree. Look at that cherry tree that was only this big around the last time you noticed. Now it's this really big cherry tree. Like, how? Wow, that's a son of a, where have I been? It's almost like I've been in some kind of a time loop, something. And if I didn't know better, I'd say, am I on a different planet? Because there are things here like, I swear to God, I would have noticed this, just saying. So has there been a shift in a timeline adjustment or something that some of these things are now here on my property that I got to use this as the example that didn't seem to be here before, and I was looking for them, but as far as the sassafras tree, though, I wouldn't have looked for it because I know that it just doesn't fly and drop in from the sky normally, and apparently it has. So Greetings and blessings from the universe. The last couple days has been really proving it to me. And I believed it all along. Okay. So it's not like I needed any reinforcement, but man, what a big ass smile I got on my face, and I'm beaming about this because it's there. It does exist. I'm just saying. I can't believe I walked by that spot on the driveway that I would not have noticed that sassafras tree. There ain't no way because the leaves are so distinct. And when I saw it today, I was like, oh, I know exact. Oh my God! I know I'm crazy. I know I'm absolutely nutso. But it's these little prayers along the way that it's like it's sort of like an attaboy in a way. Like, that's good job, Hawkeye. Keep up the good work. Keep observing because it is my skills of observation, both physically and spiritually, in asking questions about certain things, and then video showing up and information coming down and certain conversations with people, and just and listening into conversations, and going, wow, there's some serious upgrades, downloads, something. So what it is for me is some serious confirmations that my one of my questions to the universe is that is any of this really real, or am I just imagining this? Am I dreaming this? Am I creating this, Hawkeye Two Feathers reality show kind of thing? Or and then there are the things that show up in the 3D world to go, nope, here we are. And I go, holy crap. Okay, you know. Oh, so I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. And as long as that we do good works, those works will show up in tiny little ways. And I'm just wondering if the angels didn't hear my prayer when I was, on a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hour tirade about missing, the sassafras trees and having all these things changed and moved. And then within like 2 weeks later of having this conversation, and I've talked about it before, so it's not like it's the first time, but within a week or so of having that last conversation, it shows up in my yard. I know I'm repeating myself, but that just goes to show how utterly blown out of the water I am as far as of these things. And hearing the turkeys in the back, I mean, just stuff. And all this spring, and I go outside all the time. It's not like I just, randomly, I'm taking little walks, all the time, but having these special little things come out. So, okay, I'm on my own little high here about this. We have one guy at work that refuses to take off his mask. Let him wear it. If he's that terrified, you don't have to live in his reality. And that's one of the things I was trying to say earlier. And I learned this years ago, and I haven't talked about it, but it does bear reminding folks that somebody sends you, well, I hate that about you, or you're a pig, or and for me, the people who would have called me a blasphemer and a heretic, and then I'm the devil, that the devil is speaking through me, and all kinds of stuff, and I go, but I was warned that that was going to happen. So the prophecy to me that had to happen. But I have to, and they called me a heretic, and the things that I talk about is direct heresy, to Jesus and against the God, and the drill. But but after there was this flurry, it very few times does that happen now. And so for myself and the prophecy that I was given, it had to happen. And then after it happened, I stood back and I looked and I went, I even did a video about it years ago. But the idea, though, that you say, well, listen here now. Um, so my own prophecy that I was told as a child has now come true. So now I accept this, receive it? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And I realized that it was proof to me. Nobody else does it matter to, but it was proof to me of my own prophecy given to me by Mother Mary, the entity that is. But anyway, that internal prophecy had to come true. So some of the things that I have like wished for, or not in an envious kind of way. It's stressful in that, the thing that Creator has always said when you listen is that all good things will come to those who wait. And sometimes you just think it's never going to happen. And I just would have never believed in the last 35 years that I would have, these plants growing on my property without me planting them. So some guardian angel, somebody's been coming along and planting these things, on my behalf, and I love them to death. I do, because there is no other explanation. There just ain't. Okay. I mean, if you went out in your yard one day and along a fence row or something, you noticed springtime came out and all of a sudden blueberries showed up on this bush, and you went, where the hell did that come from? Now, like I said, I've got lots of wild blueberries, but to have a real honest to God blueberry bush with great big giant blueberries in clusters, they're not ripe yet, but oh my God. So, and other plants and things, some medicinals. I got to get my plant books out because um uh I want to collect some of these herbs, and if nothing else, freeze them. So, and label them. I've got some bags of some things that I've picked before but didn't label the bag. So make sure you label the damn bag, or put a little card on the inside. I'm telling myself this out loud, but there are people that look, I got this stuff, and later on you go, I can't remember what it is. Make a little piece of paper and stick it in there of what it is, and you can, you don't have to write the recipes down, but is it mullein? Is it lettuce? Is it, just saying. Found some wild onions growing right back here today. There's the oh man, a really beautiful flower that pops up. I don't know, amarillos, something like that. Anyway, two of them growing back here, flowering beautiful. My friends are looking at it, going, "Look at how," and I go, I don't even know where these things came from. I didn't plant them, but there are two of them right back here, right? I don't know. Well, where'd you get this? Not a clue. Not a clue. I transplanted that, yes, and I brought that here, yes, and I brought that here, but this other stuff that's showing up, wild onions, not a clue. Um, you know, I've got garlic planted here that I've planted, but it's showing up in places that it's like, how did it get way over there? Maybe I put some over there, but interesting. Lots of pear trees. So the universe, for whatever reason, for me, you know, I've always considered my little piece of paradise down here, but I always knew that it was lacking certain plants, vegetables, trees, and now all of a sudden after all these years, and I just never expected to see these things be here on their own. Should I have transplanted? Yeah. Could I have planted them in them? Yes. And then them spread, but they're here on their own. And I'm just saying, whoever is doing my gardening, I love you. That whether it's the fairies or the, I don't know, but I'm just saying that there are things occurring that normally shouldn't be occurring. I love it, and I'm glad I didn't burn off. But it does mean, for me, that the little trails and areas, and it's a lovely walk, up on the hill. It's like the alpine. And then, as far as in mountains, there are different terrains of areas, right? So there's the above the tree line and below the tree line, and then below down even lower in the valley. So each of these different areas have different types of plants and things that grow, and you should really be aware of it if you're not, because if you ever get caught somewhere that you needed to understand that, people will look down here and go, well, I can't find any, but there's some up on the hill. But maybe in the summertime it's too hot, and those same things, like mushrooms, will grow further down the hill, where there's shade. But in the wintertime, when it's cold, they like it more up on the hill because it's not hot, but the conditions are right. So, anyway, in observing the nature of things, um, wild things don't always grow where you think they ought to be, right? Kind of thing. So, anyway, for me, I'm going to open up the trails. It means for me that I would walk out in the yard, but I wasn't really paying attention. Well, I was looking and I was noticing certain things, but I really wasn't looking. And spirits are telling me, Dave, you really need to look a little closer than I have. I'm just kind of, yeah, it's up there. Yeah, I'll walk through. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, 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 there's brambles. But I ain't really been looking, even for me, and I'm observant, right? I notice shit other people just don't see. But anyway, I think these are gifts from the universe for me personally. And I didn't necessarily ask for them, but I did honestly wish for them. But like I said, not for me, just to come back, you know. And then all the wild turkeys, and it's just really interesting. I always feel blessed, but having the hummingbird over my head the other day, I think I talked about that. Seeing the crow that sat there and looked at me for a little while, and then off he went. Seeing, um, to me, for where I'd live in swamp and stuff, a lot of dragonflies, and I'm not bitching. And seeing other things too, and out of the corner of my eye too, by the way, has just been some stuff that's been going by. Yes, Alex. I'll join you too. Lady Spitfire, I feel like if I knew what to look for in my search, I'd find ginseng here in North Georgia. Yes, you can. Yes, you will. Yes. Um, it does grow up there. Yes, there is. And here's the thing, there is a American ginseng, and it only puts out a couple of flowers. And I'm if all goes well, I'm going to go to Ohio in June to visit my brothers and sisters. It'd be cool if we could all get together. My sister's going to coming up from Florida, from Tampa, actually Dade City, Zephyr Hills, and she wants me to accompany her up there, and because we have a half brother that we have never met. And as old as I'm getting, I can't drive myself, but I would damn sure love to go with my sister Lynn. So to go visit the other family, then she's got, I think, a sister and a brother that she's never met. And my brother Andy had a birthday the other day, and I didn't call him. I forgot. But Um, I sent him well wishes, at least in, the spirit terms. So, but to be able to visit after all these years, me being the oldest of the family, which is odd, and me being wired like sideways, it'd be interesting. But anyway, my point to that is that my niece, my sister's youngest daughter, Mary, they live up in the hills up there of Tennessee, bordering on, I guess, North Carolina. And that they do they go singing. That's what they call it. They go singing, ginsenging. The American ginseng isn't near as popular, but it's still a valuable market. And folks up there, they know how to do it. And it's like you just don't you don't take the whole root because it has to come back. It's like people who pull up the stem of the mushroom, and no, you just take the top because from that fungus on the bottom, more mushrooms will grow. You dumbass. But anyway, and lots of things like, you don't pull up a sassafras tree. You uncover some of its roots and you take a little bit of its root. You take a leaf or two, but you don't pull up the damn plant. It's like the same thing with the garlic that I have planted. There are folks that are like, you pull up the garlic for the bulb. No, you idiot. You leave the bulb in the ground because once you pull it up, then it's dead. So, but all of the leaves of the garlic, and I pulled one and I gave it to my friend and I said, here, taste this. And she was like, holy crap. And I said, yeah. So all of this garlic that I have growing, if I want, quote, fresh garlic, I go out to the garden and I pick a leaf of the garlic and I chop it up like chives. And it gives me just as much as a clove of garlic will, but it doesn't kill the plant. You see what I'm saying? So there are benefits of things that you can get from plants without killing the damn plants, and anyway. But the same thing. Hey, Michelle, I was worrying about you. I'm glad you're here. Good to see every one of you. Project Skyfalls. I don't know if I said hi. Is it 1,000 a pound? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and blessings to all of y'all. For all of these special things that have come to me the last couple of days, I have just been like smiling to the universe on y'all's behalf. I mean, I was just like, man, it. I've always, but I always have. I believed for years, but to see these extra special gifts show up here is just like I'm not going to question the universe. Like how did it get here? What? Now it's still going through my mind, but I am not. The angel said, Dave, you need some of this, and planted me one. The creator who watches over this place, or watches over me, said, hey, we decided we'd plant one of these for you. I have no idea, just saying, but I'm grateful. And so, and for many of these things, for me, like to just see that, the sassafras, I know I keep going back to the sassafras, but it was so natural around here, then it disappeared. And to have it on my property is just like, oh my God. So I have wished that it would be natural again, but I never wished it to be here. Like I wished I had it. No, I just wished it grew again so I could go collect it again. I just wished it were nearby, within walking distance, or driving distance even. But, I never asked creator, put some here, but I got it. So by allowing nature to recover itself, because my hill was nothing but a big clay field, there was nothing grew in it. Let me tell you, nothing but weeds, cockleburrs, and weeds. Stickleburs, sticker bushes, kind of thing, sand spurs we call them. But anyway, and then after all these years to have trees and all these different kinds, there are maple trees all over. I don't know where the maple trees are around here, that I would have maple trees up there. Oak trees galore. Some of them I'm going to have to cut down because there's a pear tree right beside it. And we were talking about it this evening, and I said, but I've understood now that why is this oak tree here? Is so I don't have to go down in the woods. I'm going to have to cut this tree down as much as I don't like it, but it's right at the edge of the yard. And if I cut it down this summer, then by fall, I've got firewood right at the edge of the yard, kind of thing. I don't have to go anywhere. And it's just the right size. It's this big around, but it can't grow there because of the pear trees around it, and it's going to shade out the mulberry bush, so it's got to come down. And but it's one of these little stragglers that I just let go over the last couple of years, and it doesn't need to get any bigger. But it needs to come down, and now's the proper time to do it. And to allow the pear tree to come up because I can get fruit off the pear trees, and I got lots of other oak trees, so it's not like I hate that I have to cut it, but the no-see-ums. Yeah, I'm sending love always too. Gotcha. 3:13 here, Eastern Daylight Time. Yeah, the no-see-ums, and thank goodness we don't have them around here. But uh, as I have talked about this before, but if you're ever in a situation where you're being eat up by bugs or whatever, and you don't have anything, and there's nothing, around you or whatever, like, there's certain crepe myrtle and things that you can use around here that, you is sort of a natural bug repellent. But if the skeeters are just eating you alive, cover yourself with mud. I mean, and lather it on nice and thick. They can't see your heat signature, right? And cover your body parts with mud. I mean, this is a survival, but cover yourself in mud. You say, why do them people always look dirty? Because if they covered themselves with mud, the bugs wouldn't eat them. But and the mud was good for their skin. But anyway, but to the point, if you're ever in a situation, mud. I'm gonna stick around until the 20 past, so which is coming up here, right? 14. And then I'm going to leave y'all. There's a few trees, a few blocks down that have been bent almost a field goal shape. I know it has a meaning. The old creek ran the same direction as the tree points. Yeah, there's a lot of old things that happen like that. And just saying, this year, I've always had issues with ants, but this year, oh my God, the fire ants. Oh my God, trying to get in the house and stuff down at the campsite. I mean, oh my God, the fire ants this year are nutso. Well, no, but you rub that mud, you close your eyes and put it all around them because the mosquitoes will bite your eyelids and try to get in your eyes. So, but yeah, but you cover yourself with it. But anyway, and the neighbors cut they go down the property line, and they always before they burn, they cut a fire break. And so walking down the fire break today or yesterday, I noticed all the deer tracks in the soft mud from the last rain we had. And I mean, there are deer all over the place. And I was chasing the turkey gobblers. So what there are times when you may not see a deer, but if you look for their tracks and look for the signs, you notice that they're there. Now, I have not shot a deer myself, but I have cleaned several deer here on the property. And I know that I can do it if I have to. And if I ever got that hungry, the same thing with turkeys. So in that I wish the river were in better shape and that we had fished back down there. I have noticed, though, that over the last couple of years we haven't had enough rain. That we used to have a lot of crawdads around, and they'll bore a hole down in the mud, especially down in the swamp, and there'll be this little rise of dirt around it, and they're crawdad holes. And there weren't any for a long time because there wasn't any water. Now there are crawdad holes like all over the place, which is a really good sign that they're coming back. So Mother Nature can repair itself. And I'm just pleased as punch to be able to see all these signs this spring. So I don't know what's going on in your neighborhood or your area of the world, but their Mother Nature is making some changes. Because I'm observing them just all around me here. I don't know what it's like in other areas or other places or like that, but um, a darn skeeter on my wall. Kids today will never know the fun of making mud pies. That's true. But anyway, we're 2 minutes to the 20. And happy Earth Day and all that kind of good stuff. And remember, the climate has been changing since this planet was born. So, don't get stuck in that climate crap, please. Keep your brains out of there. Now, going green, nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, all this other climate hooey, don't get involved. Be nice about it. All right, I'm pre-packing here. So it's been an hour and 16 this time around, and about 30 minutes on the last time. I don't want to annoy you, but I know you're busy. I was annoying Doug. Yeah, I'm always thankful to Mother Earth every day. So, but I'm glad they at least set one day a year out, for the Earth. Oh boy, right? But anyway, I'm being sarcastic. I'm pre-smoking here. Right, Jazzy. Smoke if you got them. And cheers, absolutely. But anyway, so I wanted to get it on here and and fraternize with my friends. But the idea, though, that these gifts that are for me that are so unexpected, and that there's only the universe and Mother Nature could produce these things. I don't, like I said, I've got a spirit gardener who's putting things in my yard. I love him, I do, but it's there is a mystery to it. But at the same time, I am not worried about that mystery. I'm grateful to the great mystery of the universe. And so it just, you know, not that I need courage every day. There are days when I just don't feel worth a crap, and my back's hurting and my brain won't get together. And I don't even want to smoke any of this. I mean, I'm like, and then there is the, but if you walk up the driveway, we'll give you a present. And so, okay, I feel a little crummy and I walk up the driveway and I see these things that nature has brought to me. And I go, holy crap, Nate keeps me busy for sure. He's my backing vocal. You're welcome, Elderberry. It's great hanging out with y'all, but I wanted to share this. To me, this stuff is really profound. I mean, it's like beyond explanation. But believe, 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 believe. 420. Boop. 421. Wow, we just kind of smoked right through it, didn't we? But in this understanding of things in the universe, I continue to be reminded that, you know, in my wishing for the sassafras trees to come back in my neighborhood, I never dreamed it would come back to that it would show up on my property. But in the wish to the universe, I just wish it were nearby. Wow, they like put it right on the driveway for me to spot, you know. I mean, it could have been anywhere else. No, it's right. And I looked there. It's, I, I know I keep yapping about it, but it's a really great mystery, but a wonderful one. So, like I say, you know, I don't need a pat on the back or anything like that. Um, but to see these things that show up literally for me out of nowhere, I just got to say, whatever the synchronicity is in the universe and the other messages that I've gotten confirmation on and things, where do most town water supply come from? All I know is ours comes from a natural spring only. No, that's not common, Lady Spitfire. What most, and I have a friend of mine who passed away recently who was in the water business, and they will dig a deep well. I mean, with a huge pipe that goes way down, and they will 2, 3, 4, depending on where you're at, down into the aquifer, so they can pump thousands of gallons and not worry. So if they're getting it out of a spring, that's less common than what natural, like down, for example, in Florida, up in around Land O'Lakes, north of Tampa, St. Petersburg, because of all the increase of people many years ago, went back when I was, they bought what there's an area there around Land O'Lakes called the well fields. And they bought up this property around Land O'Lakes and put in drilled wells in all these different pieces of property, and then connected them to, which is common in the business, to connect wells together with a header. And they were pumping the water from up around Land O'Lakes, north of Tampa, down to St. Petersburg. And then the people in Land O'Lakes woke up one day and all their lakes were dry. And they went, what? And so, because I had a friend of mine who lived on a lake, and within 2 or 3 weeks, this more like a pond, but it that always had water. It went up and down a little bit, but you know, during the season, but it never went dry. And now had turned into not even a mud hole. It was a hole. It was just a pit in their yard now that used to be this pond. And all the people in the neighborhood, it all happened to all of them. So they will sink these deep wells depending on the municipality and the availability and where the aquifer is and so forth. And around here we have the Floridian aquifer runs under us and goes down into Florida, and they have literally traced some of this, you know, through springs and sinkholes and stuff. They've actually, you know, there was some video where their divers actually went through some of the sinkholes and followed some of the water underneath there, and their tires, and oh my God, it was just craziness. But anyway, and in Tampa, there were, I guess they still are, but there were sinkholes we used to swim in all the time as kids, and then they put fences around them, wouldn't let anybody in. But anyway, but so my next door neighbor, I've got a shallow well that I dug myself with help of others, mind you, but um, I was always present and usually the one down in the hole, which doesn't bother me. But my next door neighbor, his well was about 325 feet. And a few years ago, a really bad drought. Everybody ran out of water. I mean, we didn't have rain for months, not an inch of rain, not a drop of rain for months, and wells dried up. So he called up and said, you know, for screw this, and went down another 75 feet to 400 feet. And they did hit water, but it stayed dry, and they had to come back out and dig another 25 feet to 425. So my well's 20 foot deep, and it's never went completely dry. There's always been water at the bottom of that well. But his 400 plus foot deep water well, and a couple hundred yards from me, maybe 200 yards, maybe two football fields, is his well, and he's run out of water several times, had to dig it even deeper. Although I've had to go on restrictions, and the water that I have has been like, you bathe, you wash dishes. I mean, you figure out ways to use the water. Showers are very limited. Like, put it in a bucket, get wet, but everybody was out of water. So, it was extreme conditions, but I never ran out of water. Got really damn low, but never ran out completely, you know. So where his well was, sucking air. But anyway, but it's an odd thing about water and where it's at. And I've learned through that from some old well digger drillers back in the day when I was digging mine. And they said, that the earth has veins in it, that water travels through. And that's why when you quote witch for a well, you can find these veins of water that run through the earth. Now, like mine, if it hasn't rained in a while, the groundwater drops, which is normal, but there's always been water in the bottom, you know. And if I could dig it out a little deeper, which is difficult, if I could dig it out a little deeper, that I might actually be able to draw water from it. But the idea, though, that my well was witched, and I've always had water, where this other guy, they just sunk a hole in the ground, said, this looks like a good spot, and he's run out. So, but anyway, to the water thing, though, their water supply mostly comes from deep wells that they've drilled, and 2, 3, 4, 500, sometimes 1,000 foot to get into the aquifer, or wherever the local spot is where water's down yonder, kind of thing. Because for any city, they have to be able to pump thousands of gallons per day to put up in that tank in order for everybody to have water. So if you look at the city's tank or tanks, Moultrie has several different water towers, tanks in different areas and neighborhoods. But each one of them holds thousands of gallons, and not that it's used every day, but they have to be able to pump the water up there, you know. So it's sort of like a commode. When so much water is used in the tower, the pumps don't run all the time. So, but they'll pump the water back up into the tower, like the tank on your commode will do, until the bubble drops, and then it says okay, and it shuts off the pumps. So it works in that respect. So, but if some of these tanks will hold 50,000 gallons easy, so if they use 15,000 gallons in a day for the neighborhood, we'll say, because if anything happens to the pump or whatever, and they still there's always a certain amount of reserve in each one of the tanks. So if the pump goes out and it can't fill the tank back up, there's still a reserve for the neighborhood left in the tank. I know a lot of information about water and tanks and stuff, but anyway, so and depending on where the water is coming from and how it's treated, it will first, depending on the area, will go through a water treatment plant. And that's where they, add the chlorine and that kind of thing, but they will pump the water up into those towers. And when I was, being in Moultrie all the time, there were certain days where you turn on the water, and the smell of chlorine was so strong it'd like knock you down. And I hated taking a shower or anything in town, because always smelled like chlorine for days, you know. And I used to put chlorine in my well way back in the day, and I stopped that shit a long time ago. But anyway, um, but in that though, you know, there are people who are bathing in chlorine gas every day. They're one way or the other, they're coming in contact with it in different municipalities. But every area, every state has their own water codes. In other words, what does clean water mean? So if you can get into the aquifer, or if the spring is actually as clean as they say it is, and there are no natural contaminants that need to be filtered or anything, then technically it could go right into the water supply. But many municipalities will have to look at the water before they pump it in the tank. So anyway, it might be spring water, but it might still go through filtration. So, but it depends on the city, it depends on the county, it depends on the state, and the region as well. There are a lot of different things about water, but anyway, that's a little shoestring thing about sinkhole. What's going to happen? They plugged up the cave entrance. New road came in. There was massive runoff of a lot of rains, destroying people's bridges and driveways so much the water. What that was nasty. We pay 30 something a month to receive water and exactly the same. Send it back. We flush, and then we got city sewage. Yep. 2 million gallons daily with another 1 million in reserve. We are a town of maybe 5,000 people. Yeah. Um, yeah, and you can get test kits too, you know. And one of the strange simple things you can do, you can check the pHs, go down, and it being springtime and everything, and people getting their swimming pools and all, get a swimming pool test kit. And you know, if it smells like a lot of chlorine, do put it in the thing with the chlorine and add the drops, and it'll tell you what, you know, how much chlorine's in it, kind of thing. And if it doesn't smell, you put it in, add the drops, and if it doesn't change, you know. But anyway, so that's a sort of an easy way to just gauge pH and the chlorine. And when they add chlorine, the pH changes, so it gets really acidic, okay, versus really base. So it's going to be 4.5 to 5, versus no chlorine could be 6 to 7. Okay, just saying. But anyway, something that I've observed around here, I've got different house plants here and around that have been here for 15 years. Some probably even longer than that. I haven't added any fertilizer to the plants, and I forget. And I used to add just a little bit of Miracle Grow and everything in each one of them. And I've only recently, within the last year or so, I've only watered them with water from the well. And they're growing like gangbusters. Now, if my water had been treated or something like that, so the minerals in my water naturally are whatever it is, my plants haven't needed any kind of uh, fertilizer. So, you know, it's like, wow. So, you know, um, is there something special with my water in that respect, you know? But anyway, I know that, you know, I still have micro particles of, you know, red clay that comes in because of the cave in my well. But, you know, as far as me dying, or do I have kidney problems or anything like that? The answer is no. And I used to have kidney issues and stuff, but that's when I worked in town, and I drank a lot of town water, and I was drinking a lot of, you know, bottled stuff, you know, from plastic, and I quit all that, and my kidney problems went away, along with using mullein oil. Um, and so where I'd spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars going to doctors and that kind of thing, a $30 or $40 bottle of uh, mullein oil cured my kidney problem and my dietary change. I have to say, but so and I was talking to Doug about this earlier. Yeah, live wire water, absolutely. They have some test kits that aren't really too expensive, that can go through a variety of things. And there are those places who like check ponds and things like that, and they will teach you how to use. You have to check in your state or local area, but they will teach you how to use some of these test kits to check pond water for contaminants and things and oxygen levels and just all kinds of stuff. They'll teach you how to do it for free. All you got to do is show up. You got to buy your own test kits, but in certain circumstances, some of them will actually, if you're going to do it on a regular basis, they will actually provide you with test kits, because they're curious as to what the local water is around, like in my river and so forth, because of all the chickens in the area. There's, and thank goodness the water's up right now a little bit, uh, because the chickens put out millions of tons of waste every year around here, and they're supposed to spread it on the farms. And what happens is that it ends up going into the watershed, into the swamps, into the back spots, and ends up in the river. And the EPA's been monitoring some of the streams, even my river at a different location upstream, and some of the creeks around here, because of the increase in chicken manure being put on farmland and it improperly impacting the fishing. And like I've said, I've been down on the swamps, and there's no frogs. There's a lot of things that are missing since they put all these chicken houses in around here. So for me to see some of these natural things like turkey in my backyard, and lots of good deer prints, recently, within since the other day, the recent rain, to have plants that have never grown here before to show up. If I have to be, and then of all things, I found this little arrowhead, right? I guess if I have to go hunting, I'm good to go. I've got everything that, if I needed, if, I bought this place not so much in that if the shit hit the fan, but that I could be self-sustainable on my own property. That was my goal for buying this place. And then, it was a nothing but clay, and nothing grew there. And now it's a forest. And now, so over time, I've gotten my wish. It's taken 38 years for some of these things to materialize, but it's okay. In my older age, I have exactly what I wished for 40 years ago, a place that if I had to, I could be self sustainable. I can hunt a deer out of season if I'm starving to death. I can hunt a, turkey out of season. I don't even own a firearm. So yes, I can do these things. I went over to my neighbor's pond, a nice pond, not many fish in it, very few. But I was looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, the girls gave me permission to fish that. They've got two ponds, to fish them ponds anytime I wanted to. And I was looking, I was like, in the summertime, I'm always bitching about wanting a place to go swimming. And this thing's nice and deep and clay bottom, and that's leaking around the edges. But anyway, uh, it was a poorly built dam. Um, Although they tried. But anyway, so I'm thinking, here's this big pond over here. Who's going to freaking know if me and the dog walk over? He goes over there all the time. That for me to be able to go over there and go swimming, or to take my fishing pole. Not that I'm this great, tremendous fisherman, but go over there and catch a fish or two. Screw it. And because they don't live here anymore, they just come and visit, and they burn the place off. They mow the grass. But they don't live there. And the girls told me years ago that if I wanted to, I could go fishing in the ponds or whatever, just because they weren't using it. So I walked over there yesterday, and I went, I think I'm going to utilize this natural resource that's already here. It's not on my property, but I have been given permission. Why not, right? So it's been my own. Well, I don't know. And I don't really want to. And I walked over there and I went, screw this. I'm going swimming. It's not, the water's clear. It's nice and blue and there's no chemicals in it. And I'm like, screw this. I got a place to go swimming now in the summertime. And if I want to go practice, just casting and having that, whether I catch a fish or not, it's the idea of throwing out and doing the retrieval. I mean, it's the art of fishing, whether you actually catch anything. It's putting that lure right where you want it to go, and making that bait do what it's supposed to do, and you know what I mean. So but anyway, so I'm like, I've got all these resources right here. Now it is the neighbors, and I am gonna do something to the fence so I don't have to climb through the barbed wire every time. But you know, uh, they're not going to know. And I don't think they would care if they did know. And Duggar goes through there all the time. So, and there's a really good excuse is there's a power line that goes through there. So I'm just going to keep keep the trees cleared out from under the power lines, which needs to happen anyway. And just whoops, there goes a spot in the fence, between two spots here, and it's between two trees, and I'll be able to scoot through there, and um, it'll be okay. But anyway, so but it's another resource that's in my yard that creator said you should look at this again, Dave. Like, well, what do you mean? Because I walked over there onto the dam because it's higher up, and I could see way down into the back there, looking for the turkeys. That was my excuse. And whether or not there's actually any fish in there, it is next door that if I had to resort to that, I could go over and fish those two ponds and go swimming in the summer, in the summertime when it's really hot. I'll take my little rubber ducky over there, my little flotilla thingy. And anyway, um, Gaza, good to hear from you. I was thinking that the spring and a rock and quarry go together like horse and carriage. They have to have the rock quarry to produce water. No, Lady Spitfire. The answer to that one is no. Because down here, I don't have any rock on my yard. I've got clay and I've got water in my well. So it does have to do with a lot of times in the aquifers, they're limestone. So you have to go through the rock to get into the limestone where the most of the aquifers are located, because other rocks they're not solid, where limestone is like glued together. Um, so having been in caves and where there's water in the caves and so forth, the water doesn't seep through the limestone like other rocks. Other places where there are rocks, the rocks it's a rock next to another rock next to another rock, and so it's not a solid piece of rock. There are rocks joined together to make the bed. But anyway, now there are certain places out west and things where but most of the cases, so it has nothing to do with the rocks, but they got to get through the rocks to get to the water. Water will seep around the rocks and pool underneath it, usually in a limestone bed underneath. And most of the aquifers around here are all limestone. Florida's sitting on limestone. It's nothing but one big giant, uh, limestone underneath it kind of thing, the whole thing. That's one of the reasons why I moved out of there, was because, if back in the day when they cut the Cross Florida Barge Canal, and thank God they stopped, then they put a nuclear, yeah, but then no, they blast the rock out. Water will seep into the quarry, which happens most of the time. There's a quarry north of here that's been shut down for years, but when they reach a certain level, of digging and blasting and everything, it's a big lake down there at the bottom. It's beautiful. I've snuck in there quite a few times, but it isn't about the rock, but the water will seep around it. And if you reach a certain level, and that's the ground level of water, water will always seek its level. But now you could be up on a hill, and if there's enough whatever, the water will seep into this area where, you could go 200 feet away and dig a spot and there wouldn't be any water. It's the way it runs in the earth. So it's like veins on that's the way the old timers explained it. That you could, is if you cut your arm right there, son, they point to their arm and go, would you bleed out? And I'd go, well, no, because there ain't no vein there. But if you cut deeper over just a little bit next to it, you're going to hit a vein and there's going to be water. Well, the earth is like that. That's how they explained it. And that, you can drill right next to a vein and never hit blood. You can do the same thing in the earth. And so, but anyway, having grown up, my grandparents and all lived next to a gravel pit, which is now closed as a toxic dump site. My cousin lived on the other end of it, and she had cancer, and most of the family died of cancer, probably from the gravel pit and having lived there before they turned it into a toxic dump site. And I don't know if my cousin's still living or not, but anyway, if she is, blessings to her still. But anyway, the idea though that there are places where I could dig a hole on my property and water would not go. If it rained, it would collect, but water would not come out of the ground. And I've often wondered, this person who witched for the well where I dug it now, if I had not followed her advice, because I had started a hole about 10 feet away, and that was just where I felt I should dig. I was probably maybe just as right as she was, but I looked at her and I said, "But I've already started right here, and it's only 10 feet away." And she goes, "That's where the water is. You dig where you want to." And I was like, "Okay." Other people have swore by this lady. Why not? But at 9 feet, I hit water. Not streaming, but I mean, it got muddy. And so at 9 feet, I hit water. And it's 22 feet about deep now. But the idea, though, that my neighbor just over here had to go to 425 during a drought to get water. And I still had it, albeit a little muddy, I still had water in the bottom of my well. So, and it's only 22 feet deep. So you say, well, so where's the water, right? Well, the water's in the ground, in these streams, in these veins, in these little tributaries, and some of them are bigger than others. But having been in the well, having, pumped the water out and dug it down and cleaning out the bottom, you can literally see there are little portholes in the clay where the water literally just runs in. And so when the water fills up to the level of where the water weeps into the well, then it will stop flowing. It won't go up any higher than that. It there's a lot of water on the hill that goes, then the water in the ground, the hydraulic pressure of the water in the ground. Hey D, the well comes up to the point where it's almost coming out of the ground. It's been that full to where it's like, holy crap. But usually it's about 2 foot down from the top of the well is like its fullest point. But it has surprised me over the years when we had like 12 inches of rain in 9 hours kind of thing. That was wild. And everything was flooded. The house was flooded. Everything was flooded. But um, it's a strange thing about how water goes, though. Um, and depending on where you are, like in the mountains, like here is clay, and so it clay ain't real porous. That's why they line the bottom of ponds with clay, because the clay, it turns into like a ceramic in a way, and it's if you build a pond out of sand, the water's just going to run right through the sand. So they, now they use you know pond liners actually that are polypropylene, but that's another story. Um, but So this pond over here is lined with clay that they dug off the side of the hill and out of the bottom, and then made the dam out of it. But anyway, um, so if it's rock though, and big rock, small rock, doesn't matter if it's rocky, and the rocks will have the space between the rocks. So the water can filter down through those rocks. But filtering through rocks is not the same as filtering through sand or clay or other materials. So that it can filter down through rocks and just be as toxic as when it got poured out. Whereas you can take a 5-gallon bucket and fill it full of sand and pour water in from the top and put a hole at the bottom, and whatever comes out, you could probably drink. You might want to boil it in case there's any little microorganisms, but as far as anything, this much sand is amazing what it will filter out of the water. So, but clay, and since the bottom of my well is clay, two different kinds, but it's porous. So, it will weep in from the sides, but then as it fills up, the pores in the in the clay expand and holds the water in. But anyway, but if it's a lot of rock, then there's nothing to hold anything together. It will just go around the rocks and do its water thing. Whereas with clay, it slows it down big time. Um, what's that got to do with your water? And what that has to do with, where do you live? How much clay is around you? Is it sandy? Is it sandy loam? So wherever the water is coming out of the ground, and that's different. It's different up to a point, is though that, and they've got records on this that you could check, Lady Spitfire. We are at the bottom of the Appalachian. Remember, we will need a bigger boat. Maybe. Hey, D Ocean. Uh, yeah, I don't know about that. If it happens, I'm here where I'm sitting right now is about 230 feet above sea level, 225 ish. The top of the driveway is a little more, but if you just go south a little bit when you go to the top of the driveway, it's 320 feet. It's one of the highest points in Colquitt County. And it's one of the highest spots around, as I did some Google checking. And so if a 600-foot wave comes in 100 miles from the ocean and is more than 300 feet tall by then I guess me and the canoe and the kayaks and everything, I'm going to be floating. Um, but somehow, and I'm not saying that it can't happen, won't happen. Somehow my heart says it ain't going to be that bad. But the people along the oceans and everything are going to get nailed. But as far inland as I am, and because I've tried to move to other places and Spirit kept bringing me back here. And then when Google Earth came out, and well, I've always been interested in maps, but so I've been able to look at different county maps and USGS geological survey maps and stuff, that show where all the old mines and some of the old cemeteries. So I was, and 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I first got these maps, they were current. you know, now the current maps don't have some of this what the old maps have on them, the old quarry sites and caves anyway. But in looking at that, I was like, I've picked a spot that for this area, 300 feet above sea level is like, you're sitting on a mountain per se. But south of me, going into Thomasville and going towards Valdosta, it drops off quick. It's like flat, So Valdosta, it's like 20 feet above sea level, maybe a little more. But to my point, it's on the edge of the Okefenokee Swamp, which is really close to sea level. So I'm sitting here, and I tried to move to the Ozarks several times, didn't make it. Had been there, spent a lot of time out there, floated on the rivers, and been in the wild woods and stuff. Have spoke to bears. But the idea, though, that where I'm supposed to be at, I'm using the word "at" on purpose, but where I'm supposed to be in relationship to whatever's going on, the spirit has always brought me back here. So now, as I'm kind of bringing up some old history, but in that I wanted to go to Arkansas because there was a better, there was, mullein that grew, and there that grew wild, and there were sassafras, and there were, and berries and mulberries and pear, and now it's like, look, we know you want to go to Arkansas. We know you tried, and you love it out there, and there's something about it that I think I've lived there before. But I'm supposed to be here at this elevation with this, now the river is about 200 feet above sea level. The river bed, so it drops down even between me and here. But whether or not we get 600-foot waves and I'm not far enough inland, well then, but they put me here, all the circumstances that led me to this place, the guy who helped me buy it, the down payment, how it all, I mean, we made a contract on a napkin, and shook hands and had a drink of Jack Daniels, and, and the deal was done back then, when people trusted each other, but anyway, but the idea though that I know that I'm supposed to be here. I noticed that rock sucks moisture from the air and deposits it underneath on my table. Yes. So I imagine that some water wicks from the air that way. Yes. It's called condensation. It's as simple as that, elderberry, in that the rock is cooler than the air, and the air will get on it. And as it does, as as the water condenses, it will precipitate underneath the rock. That's absolutely true. We had designed a thing years ago, and had went through this whole thing about, and they have since not talked about it much. And it's a good reason, but my house sits on the ground. I mean, and I use dirt from the ground here. Hey, FR, beloved back, that I literally mixed in the sand and clay in with the concrete for it to be, my floor is part of the dirt and part of the ground. I'm crazy that way. Um, you're in Ohio. You ought to be inland enough. Yep. What part of Ohio, D Ocean? I'm from Cincinnati, for Christ's sake. There's a joke there, an old joke there, but should have been born in Dayton. Most of my relatives are in the Dayton area, but I mean that's where I was born. But my other half brothers and sisters live up around some point. It's a big lake, Indian Lake, something. Um, up there in Rogers Point, something like that. Anyway, you're a neighbor in Kentucky. That's right. Kent, as in Fort Dead in Ohio, D Ocean. um, Ophiuchus, greetings and favor. Yeah. And you're in Illinois. I have a good friend of mine that lives near Peoria, but lived in Peoria. I think he's finally sold his mother's house, and there's another little town nearby. But you think you met me somewhere? It's possible. I have done puppet shows and here and there and everywhere. I used to do them in Tennessee all the time. If you've ever been to powwows, um, but who knows? There are other folks that swear that they um, that same one. Dang, here I am 2 hours later. But okay. Yeah, there are folks who over the years ago, I know I've met you somewhere before. There are people who claim I still live in Florida, but in DeKalb, northern Illinois. Used to travel a lot as a vendor. Well, you know me now. There you go. If you know me now, yeah, know me later kind of thing. Yeah, 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 there you go. But you went to powwows too? Well, there's one in Tullahoma that I went to a lot, several years in a row. Like 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. But I have visited a lot of powwows too, versus, I wasn't really a vendor, but, as a puppeteer. Um, I went to a few just to help out with, uh, drummers, dance, just stuff because I knew the promoter. But anyway, um, Peoria's not far from me. Yeah, small town country girl. Good for you. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a little town Peoria, and then there's a little town nearby. But anyway, I was up there back in the '70s during Christmas time, and my friend, his best friend, his father ran the local newspaper up there. I can't tell you what the name of it is, but anyway, uh, dying to get back in the country. I saw some beautiful country in Illinois. It's a little too far north for me, but for my reincarnation this time around, old Dave had to be here. I had to learn to become Hawkeye. That was my mess up. I don't know if it was my last time that I was here. There might have been another time between this karmic cleanup, I guess you could say. Um, and I could have not applied for this job, if you will. but I'm the more that I've understood in like the last couple of days of seeing all these really fantastic things get shown to me, just like here you go. Um, Things I just really did not expect, and very grateful, but did not expect. In that allowing the universe to provide for you when you need it, if you need it. And I don't know if by seeing all these things that good Lord's trying to tell me that, hey, shit's fixing to hit the fan. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the cosmos, a lot of, energy beams and things. The other day, the Schumann was whacked out, not as bad as it has, but it was pretty whacked out, and a bunch of us were feeling it. So we have to understand that we still got cosmic rays along with solar stuff going on, and that ain't counting the alien war going on above us and around us. So there are folks who would like to just absolutely annihilate this planet, and they feel like they have the right. And regardless of what it would go on this planet anyway, and what interesting too here is I was watching the latest episode of the alien neighbor or something on Peacock or something anyway. And they're trapped down in the middle of this crevasse. And he goes, well, I'm here, and we've been coming, aliens been coming to the earth for thousands of years, and well, why are we here now? Well, and she said, so how are we doing as a species kind of thing? And he goes, not too well. And he gave an example, and she was like, oh, well, damn, you know. So they're showing this stuff in the current television shows. He goes, well, the reptilians who have been here for a long time, but I'm not reptilian, even though he looked kind of reptilianish in the face. But he's like, but I'm not a reptilian. So talking about it as a matter of fact in this last episode, right? And I'm going, now if that ain't some full disclosure right there, because there have been many of us that say, and every time you see somebody that looks a little reptilianish or something, ooh, he's one of no, he ain't. And they're telling us right to our face, they're our reptilians are been here for a long time, and no, he says, are you going to eat us? No, we're not going to eat you. But in his little mind thing, but we're going to destroy 1 billion of you or something like that. So what's interesting though, hey Travis, how are you? I'm on the edge of town after my place is mostly farm. I just talked about this today. Good night, David. Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I just realized. Good morning, Travis. Since seeing the duck with the 6-pack ring around his neck in the 90s, I've been cutting them. I guess I missed one because sure enough, I look outside and I see a kitten with one around its belly. That's just craziness. Yeah, and when I go down in the swamps, it got to be yeah, talk about coincidences, right? I don't know about coincidences. I think it's reminders to us, Lady Spitfire, that the things that are important then are still important now, and how much mankind has affected uh planet Earth. And I just don't mean about being green or stuff like that, but just being careless. Uh, yeah, good night, David Castle. Sleep well. But the idea, though, in this grand scheme of things, is that the Earth is reacting on its own and doing its own thing. But then there are entities that really would like, to see us, most of us, knocked out of the ballpark. And, um, I just got to say that, in my revelations to me, I'll let you in on this little insider thing and some of the dreams that I've had is that and I'm being reminded of one of the dreams that I had about the four horsemen, the braves on horseback, and I did a video about it. And but in that, the five braves, and the one in the middle was on a black horse. There's significance to the black, right? And they go off in different directions. And when they come back, all the people they're coming from the four corners back together, and there are people that their hair is tied into the horse's tail, and there's a huge significance about that in native lore that is never talked about. It's like really secret, and I had dreams about this. But in the understanding of this, the answer was that it's that Mother Earth has given so much energy to the humans, to the population, and it's not in retaliation. It's not to like, I'm going to get you back, sucker, but it's that there is a yin and yang, and at some point, the answer has got to be, whatever happens, has got to be that that energy is given back in some form, and it's just to balance out the books. Is all it is. It's not God being mean. There are some mean, wicked, mean and bad, nasty people who are going to suffer because they didn't pay attention and they gave no, second thought to what, well, Earth Day, big deal. We'll plant a tree, Arbor Day. Okay. And that's it. And, oh yeah, well, I don't, I recycle. Yeah. Okay. And what else? And there are those people who live in their brain that they think, yeah, they're right on this. Right. And they ain't. So, and I'm not talking about going back to the Stone Age, but I'm talking about as far as how they live, how they represent themselves to Mother Earth. Now, them folks that live in the high rises and all, they don't give a shit. And, them folks just might be the first ones to go. Energy wise, in that, and not everybody that's in a high rise is bad, and that's not my point, but it's that stature of thinking, that our shit don't stink, therefore I can do what I want. Because they make enough money, they pay for their shit to go away. But who do they call when the shit backs up? They call a plumber, right? The guy who's willing to get his hands dirty. And so it's the plumber who should live in the high rise, but he knows better. Versus anyway. Um, but these people that have filled themselves full of importance, and in my brain I'm seeing some of these people that I know, all they do is push numbers around. They make copies of things and put them in files. They write reports, because I used to do this too, but at least I was an engineer, and we had product reports, we had tooling inventories, we had cost analysis. So but there, and that all did make help us out, because we were able to use that information and budget ourselves for new R&D and and tooling and stuff that we needed in house. So to prove that what we're doing is good, and that's why we need for you to continue to support this operation. But anyway, but in the life of thing, there are so many people that never really do anything, but they're important. I've got friends of mine who work in the insurance industry. I say, so what do you do? Well, I move this around and that around, and this person I stay on the phone a lot. So what do you do? Well, I move this information around. It's paperwork, and now it's computer, and it's digital, and it's in the cloud. But what do you really accomplish? Well, somebody maybe somewhere down the line gets money for something that, their house or their, whatever, the car. Not the point, but they don't really do anything but deal with this. And so their life is that, it's, dealing with, and there are bunches of folks that I know that work in environments like that. And I used to similar, and I knew people in my areas that all they did was crunch numbers. But my point to that is it's the detachment from the natural when you deal with nothing that's actually tangible, you know? So I did these things, but I built machines and we built tooling. There was something tangible with the data that I did, but I would still leave the plant and go, can't wait to get back to the country kind of thing. And I had to have a job. But the idea though that I found my soul going there and the drives and the having visit, I would have these spectral visits from an entity called White Dove that would literally ride with me in the truck while I was going back and forth to work, wonderful conversations, opened up my mind and brain, just unbelievable. And I still, thank White Dove all the time for that. And I think she was a Mother Mary kind of entity that manifested as White Dove. But to me, anyway, it doesn't matter. The entity came with pure love and wisdom and simple explanations and just look at it like this and just calm yourself. And what about that? Oh, holy crap, hadn't thought about that. Well, maybe you should stop and think just a little longer before you just open your big mouth. Oh, yes. But you have good ideas, Dave, but maybe you should wait and learn how to speak. And these were long drives back and forth, an hour one way every, 2 hours a day. I'm on the highway. So I'm having these chats with the spirit in my front seat of my truck. And, for a long time, I couldn't talk about it because people, Dave, you have gone nuts. Yes, I know. But there's still somebody in my truck with me. I could visually see their outline. I could see the glow. She was dressed in this beautiful, uh, you know, um, deer skin that had been rubbed out and done the right way, and just not, and glowed, and just beautiful woman. And just thank you very much, White Dove. So, in my beliefs and my journey and what I've seen and witnessed and listened and all of this stuff, me talking to ghosts and spirits and stuff and Mother Mary experiences, but it was always with love and honor that these entities spent time and said, you can do better at what you're doing, which is what I really wanted, right? And and as a director and actor, you have to listen to critiques, not criticism, but a critique. Like, listen, if you want to do better, try it like this. So with somebody, you're an asshole, and I don't mean that, but somebody says, if you would step to the left a little bit when you're doing that monologue, you'll open yourself up, and if you'll gesture, I mean, so the critiques are to improve someone, not to criticize them to the point where they're embarrassed and etc. So for me, it was that, I was speaking too loud. I was trying to get my point across so much that it seemed like I was forcing myself onto these people. And so I was shown, remember that incident yesterday? Yeah. Well, what could you have done differently? Well, I don't know. It kind of got out of hand. And, yeah, well, what did you do? Instead of calming down, I got louder. And I was like, yeah, that was not a good thing, was it? No, it became a shouting match. Oh, that's not what we want. We want to get our point across, but he who shouts loudest is not necessarily the winner. So I realized that I could shout by being quiet. by showing facts on a piece of paper, by doing a little drawing on the whiteboard and going, these are the facts, this is the thing, and here's my report. Where before I would stand and holler and scream and jump up and down to get my point across, and nobody listened. But when I presented it in a calm fashion, and here are the facts, and here's the, then it was like, oh, good idea, Dave. And they fired several other engineers and kept me on for 2 more years when they were doing cutbacks. So just saying, it works. So, but in life and everything that we do, so the lesson in that is listen, before we jump out with our speech, let's just think about this. What's our tone of voice? How do we feel about this subject? How many people am I going to affect with this? Am I going to infect people with my tone of voice? Or if you notice, I try my best not to use the F word. I try my best not to cuss all the time. There are people who they love it, they do it. I have no bones about it. But for me, I'm going to speak to the public. Then I want to be able to speak as a person, not using, now, if we was around the house, but I'd be probably using an F bomb here or there or this or that. But I don't find it necessary to be effective, and I find it actually ineffective if I use the F bomb or anything about like that. I have to be careful too. They tried to hospitalize me, saying, I see and hear, especially since my child passed away. Yeah, you have to be careful. I know because they threw me in the loony bin. I went through that because they said, well, we want you to be honest. And I said, okay. I hear voices. Well, really? Yeah. I said, yeah, but they're telling me to help somebody, or they're telling me to be a better person. They're not telling me to go out and kill and rape and maim. They're telling me to quit doing drugs. They're telling me to be a better person. But, I'm, well, he's still crazy, you know. So, and it's like the being able to walk around and find these things growing in my yard, which is the sassafras. I have to bring that back up as that it's a reoccurring blessing part of this, in that it's a miracle. How do I have this stuff growing? It's not. It doesn't come from a seed. Um 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 um. So, but anyway, the idea though that all things are connected in the universe. D says the white dove is the bird of Isis, the mother goddess of Egypt. Well, she was white dove, the Cherokee princess, and to me because of all the powwows and things that I was going to. But to have that connection, which I went through a period of Egypt years ago, and I had to leave it behind because of this journey with the shaman part. Not that I disregard it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But as far as this lesson for me wasn't about Egypt. It was about the natural spirit of things. But I get it, okay? And so, but anyway, but the connection about white dove and the dove of peace and the dove, Mother Mary was seen with doves, and just so the idea. But at the time, it was purely this an ancient, a grandmother that I saw in. She was this woman was like 30 years old if I was to like gauge her age, but her soul was much much older. So it was like great grandmother was speaking to me through this image of her as a young maiden, like my great grandmother was speaking to me. And her name was White Dove. Now I did some checking and did this, that, and the other thing, and ain't nobody ever heard of White Dove from the Cherokee Nation. So I was like, so, but this is my vision. These are my visions. There was a bunch of times she rode with me. Certain during a certain period of time, and during that like 6 months, she'd pop in little once in a while over a year or so. But there was 6 months that it was like I kept looking over, going, "Yep." And I would hear this thing in the back of my head that it would say, "I'm still here. I don't have to be sitting in the truck with you. Let's go over what we talked about the last time." And it would be like how to handle a certain situation. Um, I have been for a long time. I was a very angry person for whatever reason, and even though I was trying not to be angry, people who were listening to me thought I was always mad, and I had to change that. I mean, it made a difference in the theater that I did. I ended up, directing and writing a couple of shows, producing them, getting hired by the theater because I learned how to speak differently. When people for years thought I was always mad at them or something, or and I did have anger issues, but I did not know it was coming out in my voice and my actions. So when I changed that and when I became aware of it, I was like, oh, and everything changed. So, I know this stuff works, because I'm the example at the end of this. And whether anybody, I say whether or not anybody believes my story or whatever and I don't mean this rudely, but it doesn't matter in that I know how I used to be and how I am now. And I like me now a whole lot better than I did back then. I'm just saying. I did not like that person I was back then. I was still good. I still had good ideas. I still was kind and stuff, but I missed 420. But anyway, you're a Cherokeeer as well. My great grandmother went by White Horse. So there are and here's an interesting point, just to point a little bit, in that many of you in the chat room and through the different times, each one of us has got a little bit of heritage of the for us here on the East Coast of the Cherokee Nation. And because there were so many Cherokee along not just the Appalachians, but even down here into South Georgia, but because of trade. And, like I said earlier before you got on, but, there's a Southern Cherokee tribe, over in Southern Georgia near Brunswick over there, in the little, when you look at the Florida line and Georgia, it goes along like this, and then there's this little dip and it comes back up. It's sitting right there. That's where they're located. Not much elevation there. But every time I've been there, the people there are wonderful. They are just magnanimous. I want to go again, And if my vehicle did better and whatever, I'd like to go over there and go visit just for the hell of it. Yeah, they'd put Jesus on Thorazine. Absolutely. Um, and you know what, FR, one of the things that I talked about this years ago, and um, so there's a lot of evidence, and not just Jesus or the Christos or the Christ people or the Christ consciousness, but we've all come from aliens at some point, And but this idea though that um, if Jesus says, I'm coming back on a cloud, if that's, or he's in the cloud. So if the true representative of the Christ figure was to show up on a cloud and it happened to be in a spaceship, Would anybody go, oh, no, 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 we can't have this. No, we can't have this. No, 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 no. Well, how else did you expect Jesus to come on a cloud? Just on the cloud? Well, but technology, there's evidence of ancient technology and all kinds of stuff, the little spaceship things that made out of gold and up in the Andes and the Egyptians, they built some of these things and were able to fly them. They were kids' toys, but what? They represented something. How did they know how to make this thing that actually there was was aerodynamically could fly? Wait a minute now. That's 2,000 3,000 years old. Okay, who taught them that? Just saying. Think I'll carve this bird that looks like a space shuttle, and we have to accept that as so. But to the point though, if Christ showed up and if it was the real dude, he had some kind of proof. But how are we going to know? What's to say he ain't already been here and they put him in a straitjacket on Thorazine? You know what I'm saying? So who would we believe in this, or would we believe anybody? Because that we've been lied to so many times. How would we know? But here's the thing: most of us are learning that we do know is it isn't about the person of Christ, but it is the Christ consciousness that exists in all of us if we allow it. Can Christ consciousness save our lives? Not the Bible. Bible is just a bunch of words on paper. But can the Christ consciousness save us? You betcha. Because it's helping the other person. And if we each help each other, then we're gonna get along pretty good. I say just fine, but if all we do is fuss and fight all the time, like the Hatfields and McCoys, um, and Iroquois, and a whole lot of European. I've been peeing lately too, but not quite as much. Just saying. I'm not peeing now, but uh, there was a joke about if there was a European, a Russian, or something anyway. I can't remember it. Um, you both had synchronicity. What he said tonight, I love it. Yeah, there are times, Michelle, when um, some of you new folk that haven't hung out with me too long, but in this understanding of being the hermit, and the the name of my place is the Little Ochlockonee River Hermitage. And so I knew when I was 4 years old that I was going to be a hermit. So this is like, I've understood my mission at least up to a point. I'm still being enlightened on what that mission is. But the thing is that I choose to be open, to think, like for my walks, and I know it's about the sassafras tree, but for all the times I've walked up that hill and have not noticed, and then today go, oh my God. And so being aware, I've always been aware. Did I miss it before, or did that thing just like pop up all of its own because Spirit said, we're going to give Dave a present here this spring? I mean, it boggles my mind. But in the understanding of the spirit of things, what everything boils down to is the Buddha consciousness, the simple understanding of the nature of things, the Christ consciousness. Jesus and James or whatever it was. I did a video about it, and I said, the rich man said, "Look, all my slaves and servants and everybody, they all are fed well and they're clothed well and have good housing and all this stuff. And I'm kind to my neighbors. And he goes, says, Jesus, what do I do to, to reach heaven? And Jesus says, sell all of your belongings, give it away, and come and follow me. And the man said, but you want me to leave all this stuff? And Jesus was like, yay, and the man turned away in disgust. He was dismayed, by what Jesus said, because the man came to Jesus with all of these things of, quote, earthly value, which is what Jesus was trying to explain. It isn't about what you attain, monetarily. I got all this junk in my yard. What good does any of it do me? Nothing. But I collected junk to try to turn it into something that would help something or do something anyway. It's my mechanical mind, right? But in that also, one could say, well, isn't there a bit of greed in that? Ooh, look at that. There's a piece of trash on the side of the road. I think I'll take it home. And now that I got it home, now what do I do with it? So is there some greed in there somehow? You know, where in a previous life I had a lot of money or something, and I was always taking stuff. Well, now I'm taking people's junk and trying to turn it in and some and use it. Well, or you recycle it, scrap it, repurpose it if I could. But to the point, a lot of this stuff though, over the years since my last headbang issue, it's turned to rust and it's turned to dust, and boards that were good 2 years ago are now rotted, and because they've been outside and unkept, are now becoming firewood, for a bonfire. So what does any of it matter? But in the Christ consciousness, which, as my dear friend sister Helene told me, that Jesus, went to the East when he disappeared, and he studied the Eastern traditions like Buddha. And when I asked her, if, I'm telling her that I felt like I wanted to become a priest, she said, please don't, go and study Buddhism, because that's what Jesus did. And I followed her instructions a lot in that. And so, but in that, the consciousness of us, we are members of the League of Like-Minded Beings, especially when we understand that we already are. But there are folks who have a tendency for violence, and there are folks who are, more prone to this over here, the A, B, C, D group kind of thing. But it's what we choose to be and what we choose to become. And so, there are times when I know I was a grade A asshole at times in this lifetime. And I have done my best to apologize, back when I made the changeover, when I quit drinking and quit doing drugs. And I realized, oh my God, I was I was a dick, you know, I was a douchebag, man. And that I really regret this now, but I can't take it back. But I can tell you that I'm better now, and you know, I'm asking, I want to tell you that I'm sorry first, and whether you forgive me or not is up to you. But I want to tell you that I'm sorry for my behavior. That we're going to start there, and uh, and it ain't about. I'm telling you, I'm sorry for you to forgive me, but I'm letting you know it's up to you if you do or whatever. So some interesting stories along those lines over the years, but with varying degrees of success, or them being almost fatal in a way. But it's like, well, I dealt with it though. I faced the monster. I stood up to the evil in the mirror. I went, and went down into the cave of despair and met the demon, and it was I. So, And greater works for we should do. Yep. Yep. Who he really was and is. And to that point, FR, in that Jesus had the Christ consciousness, it was present before the cross incident, and and he and possibly she, like Joan of Arc kind of thing, was present. The Christ consciousness has showed up many times over many years, and especially for those folks within the Knight Templars and things like that. Just saying. And there's a lot of evidence about that out there. But so this idea that did the Christ consciousness ever really leave this planet? Maybe for a short time, but did it ever really leave? And I have become to understand no, that the consciousness never left this planet. It's gotten weaker and smaller, and in some places it's stronger and bigger, and and it was related to Orthodoxy, Catholic Church, and stuff. But there are those folks back in the days of the Gnostics and before then, and native peoples that just believed in the creation of things in nature. That's why I'm always talking about it, but also in what it really does mean to us, regardless of where we live. And I want to say, regardless of our heritage, because it's up to us, for me, this go around, to choose what, because I was an asshole in previous life, I was an asshole in this life. And I said, nah, we got to fix this, and did, with tremendous results. So, and unexpected. Every bit of it was unexpected. And I'm speaking, I ain't going to go back into it, but all the 700 people that gave me fair going away party when I left Prestolite, both shifts, both plants. And the how one individual can have an effect on people with just a minimal amount of effort, you know. And it is still a reminder of still how important uh, I would say this. I don't give a shit what people think, and up to a point that's true, because I'm going to tell it like I see it and from my heart. And not that you can actually see my eyes, but you can see my face, and there's no glitter glitz. I'm sitting here with me and my long hair in the chair with Duggar asleep over there, and we're going to have a chit chat. But what does this mean? What is important is that Christ consciousness, that spark of the Creator that's always with us, that we are always a part of the universe. When scientifically speaking, we are each an individual. Our souls are have this spark. It's got our previous memories going back to whenever that spark was created. Some of us may be new, but I think many of us, when I've often wondered, when people die, where does their soul go? And if there's a billion of us, do the souls come back? And well, then the thing about reincarnation and this and that. Well, I have visions of being on a distant planet somewhere. I feel like I was in another solar system. I feel like I've driven spacecraft and have worked on some kind of weird thing in a spaceship. And not necessarily like trying to be like this, but at some point in my spark of life, I've experienced something like this. Why not? When I die, I know that I've seen other people's sparks leave. I've seen them leave their body. I've seen the orb, the thing, the spirit. So I know I know that they exist. Having seen my father sit up with an angel on either side of him when we unplugged him. And I told everybody, they were like, "Oh, Arnie's gonna feel it." Arnie ain't in there. He's sitting up there, and my wife was at the time was going, "Shh, quiet, don't say anything." And I'm like, "What? He's not in here. He's sitting right there." And you know. Anyway, I had to speak my mind. I was like, "He's not in there. He's already gone. We're allowing him to go because 4 days earlier he had asked me to unplug him." And I didn't tell anybody. And 4 days later, I had to drive back down to Florida, and we unplugged him the day after Thanksgiving that year, '99. So, but he knew ahead of time. He had seen it, and he showed it to me in his eyes. And when he said, "Unplug me," and I went, "Holy crap." It was like talking to my grandma when she knew she was going. She was like, "Don't tell anybody, but look out for look out for your mom and your Aunt Shirley. They're not going to understand what we know." Like, "What, Granny?" So grandma knew what my spirit was like before she passed away because she saw it in me. But anyway, so I've talked about this before, but it's the relationship and my experiences that tell me there is something beyond here, and haven't seen it with other people and so forth. So, but where do these souls go? Do they just evaporate? Do they go into the soul trap and they get blended in? And, but to the point, though, I don't think they just evaporate and that's the end of their existence. So I feel like, as Casey had said, that we get an opportunity to look at what our life can be. And we have the choice to accept or reject our mission into this world. Because how else would I know at the age of 4 that I was going to live on a river and be on woods and be a hermit at 4 years old? And my granny knew it. And she told me, "Do your best." So with this understanding, then it's the acceptance of it. Well, I don't know if I really want to be a hermit. My God, anyway. So, but by seeing all these new herbs and plants and trees and stuff in my yard that I would literally have to drive miles to try to find something like this, now suddenly appearing on my property. And in doing some cleanup and stuff, I'm dusting and normal things. I run across one of my books on medicinal herbs, and I was like, "Now, isn't that interesting? That here's the book on and I've just been walking in the yard going, I can't remember the name, and and it has a something, and there's one of those over there, and because I know them by sight after all these years, but I can't remember. So now, time to get out the book while things are blooming fresh in the spring, and for me to go, "Yeah, okay, I do have this plant. Okay, let me write this down. I got this plant. Maybe it's location, but I got a little books and things and stuff that I write stuff in. So why not start a little thing? I have this plant, and it's on page 25 on the medicinal book thing. So if I go looking for it and I go, well, I have found this and that one and that one, that one, that one, and it's located here, 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 and here. So I don't have to each time I see the plant go, what's the name of it again? I wrote it down, and I can reference it to the book, sort of like a card index. But anyway, so um, my memory and certain things, I can remember what they look like, and and sometimes I remember the name, but I might not be able to remember what the hell it does. Doesn't matter. I got many books on that and the internet to double check things. So, but anyway. I have some written books that are 20 years old, 30 years old, on medicinal books and edibles and things like that. So, and it may be telling me whether or not I help anybody else, it may be that it's to help me in my life, to have these things available. Yeah, FR, it will do that. It's interesting, and it may not just be in the woods, but depending on where you live, if you live in a semi-rural area and there's, the state has a big ditch and there are things that will grow along the fence lines of places that haven't been sprayed or mowed, and you can access it because it's public property and walk along the fence line. And there are a lot of times that there's a lot of stuff you can find that along public roads. Now, I don't mean right off the side of the road because of, pollutants and stuff from the vehicle, but, if you go, yeah, my property doesn't start at the road, there's a ditch and then my property starts, right? So there's always this distance between the center of the road and wherever they deem the shoulder to be. I'm sorry that anyway. So, but with that said, though, you can walk those areas and find sometimes a lot of stuff on the along the edges of public roads, private fence, public land, and they'll grow right. Especially if you know what you're looking for. And because it'll be far enough off the road, it won't be as contaminated with pollutants from the car, And if it's mostly, if it's halfway rural, you'll be able to tell, no, I don't want to pick that, it's a little too close to the road kind of thing. But, have found lots of stuff that way. In fact, riding the dirt roads, looking for plants that are growing along the edges of the farmer's fields is still a favorite thing of mine to do. And it being springtime, it might be that I should get out and ride the truck around. Me and Duggar go for a little country ride here, but yeah, I mean, I think about my grandma died, like 30 years ago or something, and I still have her picture up, and I think of her all the time, and so and Granny's spirit's still with me, and my spirit of my pops and other people. So, and I will tell you that years ago, it would drive me to tears in my depression. But the more that I became to understand about that, nothing's ever really gone. I worked in a nursing home, and several people died there, and this one lady that I kept my I was the maintenance man, but I still nobody checked in on this lady, and I was always trying to check in on her, and she didn't move or anything, and it was horrible because she had a tube and bugs would get her around, the roaches would get her around her mouth, and I would go in and oh god, it was horrible. And so I was there when that lady's spirit left her, and it freaked me the out, let me tell you, my friends and neighbors. But having been like on the spot, now I saw Granny's spirit transforming, you know, where I didn't see her spirit, but when we unplugged Pops, he was sitting there waiting on us to unplug him. And so in coming to grips with, yes, it's death, yes, I miss them still, but they are always still with me. So as much as, now I have not lost a son or daughter or anything like that, at least not in this lifetime. But in so many words, I have lost my son and haven't heard from him. He lives up the road, not too far. But not a word, not anything. I get words that my grandson's doing very well, and but I've not heard or seen or anything from them in quite a number, like 10 years. And so it's like, so in a lot of ways, that's death. And I still send prayers and I still love them. But, you know, if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. But I'm not going to send negative thoughts to the universe. I'm not going to criticize, condemn. If that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. But and if that's the way it is, then there is death in that. So I empathize with you because of my loss, but I cannot say that it is, uh, it's not the same loss. I get it, but I can empathize in that. Uh, I know what that loss feels like, and anyway, so not to belabor that at all. What did Barry say? I missed it. Let me see. It'll let me scroll back up. Oh my God, Elder Barry, I have an Aunt Shirley, but she's still alive. I'm sorry. Yeah, going foraging. Yeah. Now that I found my little adapter, I'm gonna try walking up the driveway and videotaping it. And I might not. I'm not. I might, but pooey, might not be able to do it live, but I'm gonna see if I can upload some of this video now that I found the adapter. So, if FR, if she could see spirits, then she knows she is one. But anyway. Yeah, and here's the thing. We who are quote still left here, like in a couple of months it'll be, a year that that Brian crossed, and how we all felt then, and I lost my good friend Serge in that same period of time last year. And some other things happened during that same time period last year, and people passed, people got sick, and it was just been some strange times. But in asking the spirit world, and it's come across in different ways through publications, readings, videos, whatever, but in that some people, it's just that in their soul contract, if you want to go with that, is that they uh the reason they're passing now is to help us from the other side, because there's so much energy that is necessary. And that some of these people that are taking their lives, though, are finding out that they might have to come back as a damn rock or something anyway. um but in that Buddhist-ish kind of thinking, but that there's all the energy. I mean, I've met animals, and Duggar's got a soul. Tell me he don't have one. My little Sasha dog that was so, feisty little poodle dog she was, swimming the currents of the flood. My God. I mean, just, the critters I've known and the people I've met and known, but, and places that I've been in, trees that I've hugged, and you go, but, there is energy in all of these things. It's the life force. And it's sort of, I watched Avatar again for the first time since I think it came out on the big screen, but about the life force that lives in all things. But it also goes back to the the cartoon animation thing, Fern Gully, which I loved, and in that all things are connected, that life force and the energy. And the more I every time I say this, I think I really understand. But tomorrow I'm going to really understand it a little bit more. And even though I really understood it, for me, what seems like a bunch of years at my age, I understood this as a little kid. But sitting in the clearing when Mother Mary appeared to me, the for out there that time. So, but this idea, though, so I've understood certain things for a long time in the connection with nature and things, but as I grow older, I still understand a little bit more every time. It's not the same understanding unless I close down and stop allowing it. So finding all these new things in my yard growing and I'm happy and jumping up and down and ain't this great? And it is. And it is a blessing. And it is still a freaking mystery. But it's the acceptance and the believe. You know. So it just fills me a little more with understanding that all things are connected and that all these things and um, maybe one of my dear friends that's passed on planted that tree up there for me spiritually. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I believe. I was grieving the loss of my little girl long before she left the world in a male body. It's been a very long heart. She isn't suffering anymore. She doesn't have to pretend. She's dancing. Right. Thank you, Michelle. But and I'm not doing this to like, I'm trying to explain to you that even at my age, there's still wonderment. Even at my age, there's still another little degree of awareness. There's still another, so, but there are people who will just become mundane in life. And as many times as I've walked up the driveway, and as many times as I think I'm paying attention, as many times as so there's this thing though that if you allow it, it will continue to happen versus get to a point and stop. If you feel like you've gotten to a point and you stop, then something's holding you back. You need to release something. Because as the cards have said, and I can't remember which one, but sometimes it's time to just let go of some stuff, whether it be feelings, thoughts, whatever, because you and the reason is because you want to be able to absorb more. So whatever it is that's clouding up your energy thingy, and that if you feel like you can't feel anything coming in, maybe it's time to release something. Not it doesn't mean that you have to say goodbye to it, but for some reason we're holding an energy in that we can take that energy and turn it into a thought and put it in the file. We can recall it anytime we need to, but maybe it's time to that there's an emotion attached to something and we don't want to forget it, but we want to leave the emotion away. So you don't want to I don't want to ever forget my granny, but I'm not going to think about what it made me feel when. Well, actually, I I was kind of glad she passed as easily as she did. But um, the idea, though, that having been with her before she passed, I mean, like literally a couple of days, sort of like when I was with Pops. On a Sunday, he told me to unplug him, and on Wednesday he went into a coma just before Thanksgiving, and we did not want to remember Thanksgiving as unplugging him, so we waited until the following day. But actually, it was 3 days later, and he was out of this place, and it was the family that said, "Nah, We're not going to do this on Thanksgiving, So that time of year, every time it comes around, always has a different meaning for me, in that it's that time I remember we unplugged Pops. But it was also the time we released him to the angels, and he was able to get out of, he was trapped in this body for like 3 months in intensive care. He woke up long enough to tell us all goodbye, and then we unplugged him. So, but having seen how people come back to say goodbye, and not just my pops, but other people, and I was with I talked about this back around Thanksgiving, how some friends of mine invited me over to their house for Thanksgiving dinner, and I was sitting by this lady a little older than me, and we're having conversation, and she's just spry and doing real well, and eating turkey dinner and dressing and gravy, and I mean she's like really hammering it down. She's like little lady sitting there, and I'm like, let's go for it. I wanted to say grandma, but she was more like an older sister age wise. And then not too long after that, Rob comes over and he goes, my grandma died. He goes, she was doing really good. And he said, we just went in there to check on her and she was dead. And, I was like, what? Yeah. He said, she would, was having sort of issues, but she got better around Thanksgiving. And we were all doing this sharing and everything. And then then they just all of a sudden that was that. So, it's happened to not just me, but around me, but other people. And it's just like they get real happy for a couple of days or for a week. And the next thing you know, they're out of here. So, a friend of mine that lived down the road, they were taking care of, and the same thing happened with their older, I guess it was their mother, and she was having issues with Alzheimer's and didn't know who. And for one day, she woke up and spoke everybody's name and said, "Come on, let's go in the kitchen." And she made pancakes or something, and they all spoke and everything. And 4 days later, she was dead. They found her, tried to wake her up, and she was out. And so, but they were like, they came back to, to be normal with folks for a day or so, you know. So I in my own understanding of this, it proves to me that there is a spirit, because they come back with the intention, with maybe angel blessings, to say goodbye to everybody, to have that moment, to be able to do that. And then, so nobody, well, she was doing so good just the other day. My good friend that had the lawnmower fall on him, his wife's mother passed away. She was doing real good and everything was fine. And then they went in there and she had passed away. And it was like, what? Yeah, she was getting up and going out on the porch, and then all of a sudden, like within a few days of having gotten better, they just buried her here about a week or so ago. So it's going around. But this coming back and being healthy for a few days has always kind of made me scratch my head a little bit. But is that the divine energy that at this last little bit, you have this chance to feel like life? And then, oh God, I'm feeling really lively like right now. So am I gonna, I'm thinking about myself. Wow, I feel so good right now, and I'm all cheerful and everything. I'll wake up dead in a couple of days. Please don't say that. Knock on wood. I'm supposed to still have things to do here. Um, but in that though, um, was it their time to go? Was it, but I mean, a lot of these relate to some kind of an illness, or they weren't feeling well. I mean, uh, several of these folks have had some kind of cancer or kidney failure or something like that. So, but with that said, though, uh, Yeah, don't say shit like that. I know, but I mean, but to the point though, there are these people. Not that I have felt down, mind you, but um, the thing is though, take every day and make it worth everything, regardless of, because it, who knows, it could be your last day. And I'm not speaking badly, but none of us felt like Brian was going to be gone. I mean, he's a lot younger than me, and we were supposed to meet and go kayaking, and but he's been kayaking with me in my heart at least. So and I think I need to pray on Brian myself and say, hey, Bubby, I've been begging people to go with me down this river, right? And nobody will go. I've been told people, I will pay you to go with me. I will give you money if you will go with me. Well, I don't know. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so me and the dog gonna go anyway. The heck with other people, but I think I'm just gonna have to call upon a few spiritual friends of mine and go, hey, you go canoeing with me. Let's go riding. If nobody will physically go with me, then I'm gonna call upon some spiritual friends and say, all right, now, But anyway, listen, I love you all. It's been way too long. And what time is it? It's 5:13. Yeah, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. But I think that in all of the things that we do in life, we accept them for what they are. Believe, 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 believe. And I used to think, will anybody remember me when I'm gone? And I kind of sort of went through this back last year. And, and it just like, I have to give it to the universe and like, well, as long as these videos last, somewhere, as long as there's somebody that remembers having conversation with me. You saw a beautiful sign from Brian. Cool beans. Maybe it was Brian that planted that tree for me. But to the point of that, you know, I say this with all due respect that I don't need any signs from him, but I can just tell by his presence, you know, because of when I would tune into him. And if you remember when there'd be times he'd go, I was just going to ask you about that. And he goes, I had this wrote down. There were so many times I read Brian's mind. And, during the, our live streams together. And he would go, man, he goes, I had this wrote down and you answered it. I didn't even have to ask you the question. And, and so online and on screen and live in color, and he would go, how do you do it? I don't know how I do it, but I can sense things in the universe. And my higher self says, they want to talk about this, or there's a question about that. And I go, well, okay, So, but in this understanding of the all, I just play it by ear. You know, I believe, I believe, I believe. After last year's debacle with situations around here, as much as I tried to help, it was, I'm still paying for it, but it is what it is. Um, but things are much better. But the understanding, though, that I lost my power. I gave it away. And now because of others, and I've realized that I gave it away somehow, or I lost it. So that was in this process. I'm like, why did I do it? Don't know. But let's not focus on why or how. Let's just notice that it did. And what do we want to do about it? And let's fix it. Well, why did it happen? Doesn't matter. Yeah, but it was this circumstance. Don't care. What is changed is that I changed because of whatever it was that was going on. I changed. And I didn't like the way that I changed. And now this spring, everything is different. So, because I have decided to not, whatever was hanging over me about that, I've decided I can't let it hang over me anymore. It's over with. It's must move on. It's time to see the new. Let's go back to what we normally did before last year, and not make any excuses or place any blame. It's that I had changed for whatever the reason, and I'm going back to who I was before that time. Not a big deal. In a way, I've sort of been trapped in a time loop, and I feel in some ways set free in that. But having seen all these new trees and bushes and the mulberry, all of these things is just like icing on the cake, you know. Like I said, it's not that I didn't believe, but man, it's like getting a gold star, you know, when I wasn't expecting any stars at all or reward, you know, and it's not about the reward. Okay, we got 2 minutes, so I'm gonna hit this. Smoke if you got him, and feel bad for your debacle. Yeah, all this time later, you know, there was somebody here last year, right? And but anyway, yeah, I'm still dealing with stuff. I'm still throwing things away. It's much better. My attitude is much better, but yeah, I'm still paying for it in that respect. But it's okay. I did the best I could. I wasn't expecting any reward then or now, but thank you, Michelle, for my star. And it's almost 4:20. Um, it did suck. It doesn't suck anymore. That's the point. It did. It doesn't anymore. That's my point. And but I allowed myself to get. I picked a new rut or something. I don't know what it. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'm not the same anymore. And it has been, like I said, I'm always walking up and down the driveway, but I never noticed the real blueberry bush. I never noticed. But I walk up and down the driveway all the time, and I'm supposed to be this guy who's aware. Now I'm aware of a lot of things, but I've missed a lot of stuff that was right there at eye level. It's just, it's another one of them. Wow, I thought I was awake. Yeah, but you were. Maybe I was dream walking. And I've sort of come out of a dream walk. That's a blessings with a lesson. Blessings. Yep. There's no negativity in it. And that's one of these lessons. And regardless of what happened last year, it doesn't matter because there is a new year with all of these new things blossoming and all of these new energies. And yeah, there's old shit. There are people dying that we know. And I mean, there's stuff happening and it's still crazy out there. But still hidden within all of the chaos of the world are these little hidden gems here and there and here and there. And they are the blessings from the universe. And it shows us how we're connected. And uh, for me, it helps to continue my connection with the universe. I'm really stoked about this silly, sassafras tree. It's really got me stoked. I'm like, wow. And now I'm going to go making trails through up there because what else is up there on the hill that I have not seen? Now there's some bramble patches and things. It's not easy to walk through there. So it's going to cost me some work and effort. It's going to be hard. But at the same time, I'm going to be able to walk through it and maintain it where I had got it, out of it has been out of maintenance. It gives me exercise. Is something good. I get to see where the birds are building nests in the trees and the bushes. I get to see what kind of and I get to walk. I get to be outside. Duggar gets to follow me. We're doing all these things. So, but anyway, one more time for 422, and then I'm going to say adios to you all this morning. And I got to pee. So, Michelle, to everybody, keep it between the ditches, my friends. There's sadness all around, but there are these little mini blessings too. So I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. I'm just giddy. I am. And stoned. You are, Michelle, you are here. I'm gonna figure out how to upload some of these pictures and maybe do a little narration or something. I'm gonna try to figure out how to upload them to the YouTube, the video thingy. We'll see, uh, but yeah, I want to show off some of the pictures and a couple of things just so y'all can be here. But um, just just know that every day I think about you. Nate is wonderful. My blessings from Spirit. Good. He's so intelligent. Yes. And the message from Spirit is channel it with kind hands. Is the message they're telling me to tell you right now. And that some days and you probably already know this, that it's not the same thing as it was yesterday. I was here during those dark times, and I consider it a blessing on my part, um, and kind energies, meaning in that, but because they feel, and this, I know you do, they feel that energy from us. And if we're hyper or we're pissed off or whatever it is, and we're at our last nerve, and that happens, um, that you have to just, yeah, I've softened, right? You become the compassionate observer. And it's a really big deal, when we can find that place and we can be the observer, when we're the eagle and can see the horizon versus right what's in front of us, and there's healing in it. Oh my goodness, there's healing. Well, as my second here, I continue to pray every time I put my feet on the ground, each and every day, that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, all of your relations, and anybody you may come in contact with will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And in that law of three, which really tremendously tickles me today, is that I continue to pray each and every day that you will continue to learn how to accept and receive and continue to share the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. So, y'all take care. Thank you for letting me be in your lives. And Michelle, I'm so glad that I was here for whatever the times. And, I, having walked around and seen things today, I kind of look back over my shoulder. I love you too. I was having a thought and talking at the same time, but um, I realized that apparently I just went through some dark times because I feel like I'm on the other side of this, whatever that was. But having it, what happened last year, like I said, no complaints, no pointing fingers, no blaming, but I feel like I have walked out of something. And, it feels different somehow. It feels good, but I felt good anyway, but seeing all these extra little blessings in the trees and the this and that and the notes from the heavens and and the picture I wanted to see a picture of a UFO from the good side, and I got it. I mean, within like 2 weeks of asking, one of these days, can y'all show a picture of one of the good, and boom, there it was. So, but anyway, so be safe, y'all. Keep it between the ditches, and you know how it goes. We thank you, Bob. Ween. Haven't done that in a while. So, Ween, everybody. I know, Michelle, there's so many of you folks that are sending me prayers, and I'm humbled by everything that you all uh, send me messages and that you worry about me and everything. Gaza, good to see you, hear from you on your side of the world, and we love you all. Thank you so much. Um, Supported by the divine. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of support from a lot of places, and regardless of where it's coming from, I get it. I understand it. And I'm very grateful, for when I get done here, I'm going to go outside and see how cold it is, let dog run around. But I'm also going to give thanks to the universe, for allowing me to be here with y'all this morning and being able to share, and the fact that you all feel a connection between each other, not just with me, but with each other. And in that companionship, the camaraderie. We are the soul tribe. We are the league of like minded beings. And the more we explore that in the universe, the more people seem to find us. And, I've never asked for a like or share. It happens when it happens. And those of us who have connected with each other, I say cheers. So, I know there were some people who were watching in the background, and that's perfectly fine. The fact that y'all hang out at all and participate shows and shares the energy. And if anybody that's lasted this long in, but they don't want to sit in the chat, I'm good with that. You told them about me. And so up to this point, um, it's like, well, each person has to find, you can say, well, hey, go listen to this person or, study. But to the point, though, it's up to the individual in the end to make up their own decision in that. Yeah, both of them showed up. They were here the other night, I think, too. At least Free Flow was. But with that, I'm grateful to everyone because there are many times in my own little life here I say to myself, what good am I to anyone? You know, I'm being selfish in that I want to get online and talk for 3 hours. Or, this is self serving. And I go through this thing and I go, no, it ain't self serving. No, the angels are kicking my butt because they want me to go talk about this, or somebody out there needs something and you can help provide it, Hawkeye. That's, you signed up for this. And so it's like, okay. And so the more that I accept it, the more that I accepted it years ago. I even did a video and I exclaimed online that I am a warrior for the Christ consciousness. and I will continue to be here. And, this is my goal. And I stated my intentions. And here I am all these years later. And, uh, you know, I've progressed. We've all progressed. We've all learned from these things. And I can't ask for anything more than thank you. You know, I would rather listen to someone that's intelligent like you, TV, and say, you're such a fan. I know you are, Michelle. Thank you. Well, and the thing is that because I've known you folks and got to know you, somehow, and you could say it's out in the divine or whatever, but it's the cosmic, it's the cosmic goo, it's the cosmic stuff, and I when I pull cards that hit you guys right on the nose, I don't know how I do these things. How did I pick the eagle the other night? I'm still mesmerized by that one, let me tell you. I mean, there are lots of synchronicities in my life that I'm sharing with you all about the trees and the cards and stuff. But, for me to have all these things kind of add up all in a couple of days is like not necessarily overwhelming, but it's like, whoa, once a week is really cool, but a bunch of stuff in 3 or 4 days, like that, you know, something's going on, regardless of energy waves and storms and rain, and regardless of all that, and I realized that what used to, like, freak me out, and and this and that, now I go, no, there's hurricanes in Florida and Texas needs rain, the old song. But in that though, um fangirl. But anyway, in all of this though, um, to thy, as I can't remember who said it, but to thine own self be true. And so my true life is to continue to accept that as a 4-year old, I already knew what my soul contract was. I knew I was going to be a hermit. But here's the thing, nobody's really ever since I put up the sign, nobody's really came here other than last year. But I've hung out my sign, but you all come here to the Hermitage and visit me online. So it's like you're already here. I share as much as I can, but at least in descriptions, I've done a couple of things outside. I'm going to upload some pictures. Now I think that I can. Um, so I think it's wonderful in um, that I'm sharing the Hermitage with you, even though it's online and you just get to look at my nasty face all the time. You pick me as the altar. What? I don't get that, but okay. All right, it's 5 something in the morning here, 5:35. So, it's supposed to be a nice day tomorrow. William Shakespeare, that's what I thought. I was trying to think of what the play was, but to thine own self be true. Yeah, Billy had a lot of good lines. But in that though, and what I mean by being true for myself, because I can't, speak for anybody else. But in my true nature is to be the nature person, to get out my medicinal books again, and to do the walks with Duggar. And if I'm not doing engineering work and all these other things, I'm still cleaning up and doing that kind of thing. But the idea, though, that I can also go back to what I was one of my loves was to look for natural herbs and things and that kind of thing. And so I need to go back to who I am, and that's that person. I did it as Boy Scout, and I need to do it again. So having these trees and stuff on my property gives me the impetus to want to look for what else did Creator put here that I have not, you know, I've not looked for or noticed or whatever. So, and to this age that I am and whatever, it's good to know how to make these salves and these different things that can literally last for years and still have healing properties to them. So, and also I can make teas and keep me healthy as I get older. So, Barry, sweet dreams. Love you, brother. And know thyself. Yeah, but anyway, to know myself as the older I get is to realize that I'm that little kid. And that little kid is the one that goes out and looks for plants and herbs. And that's the little kid that still blazes trails. And the little kid that, even though I love nature and go outside all the time, it's not the same as doing the walkabout thingy and stuff that I used to do all the time. And there's a connectedness there that I'm like I didn't realize I was lacking. And so I walk by a lot of stuff on my walks without looking at it or being a part of it. And it's just an interesting thing that I somehow forgot about or quit doing, or I'm not sure what, but it's not the why did I not do it. It's that I'm back. So, but anyway, be fearless and play. Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking to talk, but as the old saying goes, what would I rather be doing? Blazing trails in my backyard at my age and doing all that physical labor and all that kind of stuff, bad back or not, don't care. Uh, but if it kills me, I'll be doing something that I was enjoying. And it doesn't mean that I'm trying to be, just self-proclaiming any kind of, but I would rather be out doing what I love to do, even as a child, than just sit back and go, well, I remember when I used to do it. No, I'm gonna keep doing it. I showed my friend this afternoon. It was like her husband broke his foot in the accident and all that kind of thing. And but I was like, yeah, I made this campsite down here, and me and Doug are going to go camping, and yeah, we're going to do this, and yeah, it's like, wow, you really did do it, and I'm like, yeah, I really did do it. I haven't worked too much on the house, but I've been playing in the yard and in the woods, and that has rejuvenated me, and to where I went back to working on the house some more today and stuff, and doing some other things, but for a long time, all I could do was concentrate on cleaning up and getting certain things out of here. And I was not taking walks like I should. I was just walking and passing by and not looking, not paying attention. And I'm back to paying attention again, and it feels good. So anyway, um, yep, I'm refuse to give up. That's my answer to the whole thing. Or a third half or something. I don't know what half it is, it's a new section, and probably if I did some kind of calculations, like every 7 years we regenerate. Everything in our body gets regenerated, and I have believed that for a long time. And so, otherwise, as I was telling my friends today, I said, my left knee it was broken playing football when I was 15 years old and I haven't been able to bend it. And now I'm out there in the yard running with the dog, running up and down the hill. We play kickball, and knock on wood, um, it's sore and but I can bend it. I can run at my age. I couldn't do this when I was younger. So in my thought process, if every 7 years everything regenerates, then every 7 years I can fix stuff. So, if you keep that positive attitude where, like, I know there's a lot of stuff going on with my lower back, but I had some really bad injuries to it. like falling backwards onto off a scaffolding, um, onto a cross member. That really hurt. And also the stenosis that I have, which is, you know, bone growing around the nerve endings, which I understand can be fixed relatively easy now. But in my world, it's that, there are times when it does debilitate me, but there are other times too when I say, "Oh, my back hurts." But if I go walk up the hill and put myself into nature, it somehow realigns itself, and it doesn't hurt near as bad without any pain pills. So there's something about some sort of space launches on TV. Yeah, depression, get out of it. But anyway, but for every 7 years, though, if you understand that our body's always regenerating and we can always regenerate, especially if we allow ourselves to be positive. Well, I feel broken right now, but my leg's gonna, it's not gonna get any worse. It's gonna get better. Instead of me being in a wheelchair like everybody was betting on in my last, class reunion, they were like, "Holy crap, you're not even limping," and we saw your leg broken. It was twisted and up on my back. It was horrible. And the fact that after all these years that I'm not arthritic and yeah, our thoughts are one power, are our power. That's true. And believe, 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 believe. You just um and there are some people that it just don't work on, but I kind of wonder if it's part of their soul contract, you know. Well, some people leave earlier than other folks. But I was told a long time ago that they were going to keep me around for a while. And back then I didn't know why, but and then I got this sense that I was going to teach things of old that mattered again. And here I am talking about, medicinal plants and these kinds of things, but also in the basics of understanding about the basics of nature and our connection to it. So, in my prophecy, what they showed me many years ago about this, I'm understanding it now and I'm going, yeah, I kind of see the swing of this, you know? And yes, I did agree to this. And yes, sometimes I'm shaky in do I have conversations? Do I do a video? Should I do a video? Am I doing too many videos? Just um, and I have to take me out of the equation, and that's the big lesson. It is not about me. Now I'm learning stuff and I'm sharing, but doing these videos, it is not about me. It just isn't. Although I talk about me all the time, right? But I'm simply the example. That's all. Oh, honey, if you knew how many prophecies had been given to me about me and my journey and this and what I'm doing right now, it's an amazing it still boggles my mind, but I just have to believe, 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 and allow it to happen. So it's the allowing it to happen and listening to the universe that says, "Okay, Hawkeye, you need to do this," or "Okay, Hawkeye." But why? Don't there are times I just got to not question the why. Just here you go. So anyway, I've said the prayers. Obviously, some miracles happened here. That I've described tonight, the last couple of days, and they're little tiny little things, but they sparkle all around. It's just really interesting. So anyway, um, yeah, keep it up. Oh, there can be miracles. Whitney Houston, I got you. Anyway, I'm not being very musical tonight, but that's okay. I feel very grounded. I need to go outside though and look at the stars and see where Venus is at the moment. But anyway, I love you all. Be safe, um, and take care. And there's always a prayer out there for you folks, whether you know it or not. And I know I was talking with some folks today and they were saying, I'm sending you prayers all the time. And I'm going, yeah, I've been feeling them coming in and I haven't asked for any. Not that it's, but the good thoughts and the prayers, I am sending them back to you all. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So when I say I get up every morning, you know, every time I get up to go pee, there are a lot of times I go, well, there must be a prayer that needs to go out. So, you know, uh, while I'm relieving myself, I'm also sending prayers. Now that's a picture, ain't it? Please don't. But anyway, so I love you all and be safe and keep it between the ditches, as we say down here in South Georgia. And, you know, Fox, same to you, Fox. It's good to see you. And that's really good. Bless you all. May spirit swing with you. Love is all you are. Relax and rejoice. Yep. There you go. Know that you already are a part of the universe. That's the whole thing. It's the reawakening that and understanding we are a part of this universe, whether you like it or not. We are already there. Just believe in it. So till next time, be safe, everybody, and cosmic hugs. Cheers. We love you. Be safe. Adios, TTFN. Ta ta for now from South Georgia. Cheers.